entirety. We'll have reaction coming up in the second hour of the show. Also, some college football transfer portal madness going on, including maybe Ty Simpson making a move up to Rocky Top. So we'll talk about all of that. But first off, Nick Frazier, how's it going?
Good morning. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, first show of the new year.
Yeah. I mean, this is another new year. I guess Chase and Joe, you're like, new year, new me, whatever. Oh, everybody's saying that. Give it a break.
What's the rule? I saw the Larry David thing. Is it January 3rd is the latest you're supposed to say Happy New Year to somebody?
Didn't he say like January 6th or 7th, like today or tomorrow or something like that?
Maybe it is. I think it's you have a week max, right? And you can say Happy New Year the first time you see somebody. So like, if this is the first time we're doing a show together, we can say Happy New Year. But once you get to like the 7th or the 8th, I think that's when it doesn't matter anymore. It's no longer.
I give it the month of January.
Really?
Yeah.
So on like January 28th, you're just ripping Happy New Year's to people.
Yeah. If I haven't seen them in like a couple of years or haven't seen them like since early December, yeah, give him a little Happy New Year action.
All right. I think Larry David would have a problem with that. He is the end all be all on when you can say Happy New Year.
Larry David has a problem with a lot of things, but you know what? Let the new year ring, buddy.
It is the new year, and it is the off season now for the Tennessee Titans after their season came to a close on Sunday, and we are in full-on head coaching search mode. The Titans have already made a lot of interview requests. There are a few interviews already scheduled. I believe the plan is Lou Anarumo is going to interview tomorrow, Matt Nagy on Thursday. Then Saturday, Kevin Stefanski. Sunday, Raheem Morris. Those were the two that came out after our show ended yesterday that the Titans have scheduled in-person interviews with the recently fired Kevin Stefanski and Raheem Morris. These are interesting to me. We talked a lot about Kevin Stefanski yesterday because I think he is a guy that shot to the top of a lot of people's boards. Two-time NFL Coach of the Year. He has been in a tough situation in Cleveland for the last few years, and he's not completely absolved of blame. Like there are things that I'm sure Kevin Stefanski was not doing well in Cleveland, but you also have to look at the situation of he was tied to that horrible Deshaun Watson trade, horrible contract. He really wasn't in any position to get a quarterback that was actually competent over the last few years. He got the team to the playoffs with Joe Flacco a few years ago. So I can understand the Kevin Stefanski stuff, and I'm interested to see if anything comes of that. The Raheem Morris one is interesting for me that the Titans are interviewing him. I kind of thought Morris was going to be one of those guys who immediately goes back to a defensive coordinator role. And maybe this is what that is. If you remember back to when the Titans hired Mike Vrabel, they interviewed Matt LaFleur during that process for the head coaching job and then hired him as the offensive coordinator. Maybe this is some advanced scouting on Raheem Morris as a possible defensive coordinator candidate.
I mean, it's a possibility. I remember listening to the broadcast. It was the Saints game. Yeah, they played the Saints in week 18. That Bijan Robinson didn't say this on TV, but it was reported that Bijan Robinson and a few other players wanted Morris as their head coach returning for Atlanta. So it's a mixture of emotions, and the fact that he's still keeping his name out there as a head coaching candidate, I think it's good for him. I mean, yeah, I think he would probably fit in a better role of a DC, but as of right now, and I don't want to sound like, the negative Nelly here, but they're just appeasing the Rooney Rule right now. That's essentially what it is.
Well, I mean, you do have to do that, right? And the Titans, at the very least, already have requested or scheduled interviews that would have fulfilled the requirements of the Rooney Rule. So nothing to worry about there. I think this is going to be a long process, and we're going to hear from Mike Borgonzi. Obviously, these are the preliminary interviews going on, but the Titans cannot interview anyone who is still coaching in the playoffs until at least next Tuesday or Wednesday, I want to say, if their teams are eliminated. And you can't interview in-person candidates until then as well, I don't think. Like any currently employed candidates, you cannot interview them until at least next week in person. So this isn't going to be something that's over by the weekend, right? They're going to be thorough in this process. But the initial list is interesting. I did not expect to see Steve Spagnuolo or Lou Anarumo on there. But Mike Borgonzi, I have no problem with him speaking to more people and seeing what comes of it. I would be shocked if a lot of the guys that we've heard from already are actually going to be the choice for the Titans in the end.
Yeah, and all this is like you have a giant pool of coaches to choose from, I look at it as high tide and low tide of the ocean. Right now, you're in high tide season. You have a bunch of candidates. The white caps are coming over. That's what you want. Just wait till the low tide comes in. You're going to find your perfect low tide to go through. And again, everybody keeps mentioning the Matt Nagy of the world and just thinking he's the next Titans head coach. The marriage is right there. We all see it. Yes, but is it too good to be true? That's my only apprehension. I think it's too good to be true.
I think he is the favorite, but I would take the field over Matt Nagy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to pick one candidate, I think Nagy is probably the guy, but I think it's more likely it's not Nagy than that it is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, he's not the odds-on favorite. Like, it wouldn't be more than a 50% chance. But I think if I had to pick one, I think Nagy is the most likely.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long process. There's a reason that we've heard the Titans tied to a lot of these coordinators who are still coaching. Jesse Minter, Chris Shula. I know Clint Kubiak is the early favorite to go to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Hafley with the Packers. All of these names have been tied to the Titans because they're interested, and they can't even speak to them until at the earliest next week. So this initial list, it may not be the sexiest list of names. I think out of the names that we've heard so far, Stefanski probably would be my favorite. What about Cliff Kingsbury? How do you feel about him? I know that they haven't officially requested an interview yet, but the name has been out there. That's one that's kind of a wild card to me. I think he could do a lot better in his second chance, but I think there's also some red flags there with Cliff Kingsbury too.
Yeah, he carries a little bit of baggage. I mentioned his name yesterday to Chase and Big Joe when they were on the air, and my obvious candidate is Robert Saleh and then Cliff Kingsbury. We just went defense and offense. That offensive guy, Kingsbury, he has a cool mind and how to, approach a play as a coordinator, but I don't know how well it can really, I guess, be good for him as a head coach.
Yeah.
I think, again, we've all had the conversations of, you have really good OCs in the NFL. Maybe they're just that. That's their ceiling. We'll see in due time. I'm very intrigued to see what a interview like that will take place with the Titans, Kingsbury and the Titans. What kind of, interview, because you obviously hear things after the interview's over with.
Yeah.
Maybe it runs good. I don't know. Maybe it's a good interview.
Kingsbury is an interesting one because last year he was a hot name because of what he did with Jaden Daniels. I mean, you take a rookie quarterback, you go to the NFC Championship game. I think a lot of people were interested in Kingsbury, and he basically said, no, I'm good here. His name's not quite as hot anymore, and that's what happens. Bobby Slowick, I think, is the perfect example of that. When the Titans hired Brian Callahan, everyone wanted Bobby Slowick. It was like, that's the guy with the Texans. Look what he did for C.J. Stroud. We need Bobby Slowick. A year later, he gets fired as the offensive coordinator of the Texans. So it's a year-to-year thing. Guys are hot at certain times. They're not at other times. That doesn't mean they're not a good coach. So I would be fine with an interview with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know. Again, I wouldn't put him in my top 5 candidates, I don't think.
Right.
But it's not one that I would hate if that ended up being the name.
And you got to remember the situation he was in Washington. Like, yes, you have Jaden Daniels, one of the young up-and-coming quarterbacks in the league. But again, you have a wide receiver in Terry McLaurin who's aging. Again, he's 28, 29 in that ballpark of a number. Then you have Deebo Samuel, who's, to me, second fiddle when it comes to wide receivers, not even a true wide receiver anymore. And you have Zach Ertz, who's on the back end of his career.
Right.
All these pieces on this Washington offense, yeah, they're good, but they're not great. As for the Titans, it's a little bit more appealing. We'll see what happens with Cam Ward's recovery. Then you have your Alec Alomanners of the world, your Jim DKs. Maybe there is some form of an offensive, mind in Cliff Kingsbury that can turn this offense into the next gold.
When you talk about the Titans as a job and how attractive they are, that's been the question the last couple of days, because I think we got about as many openings as we could have yesterday. There were a few other names that I think you kept an eye on. Harbaugh with the Ravens, McDaniel with the Dolphins. Both of them seem to be safe, at least for now. Firings happen on Tuesdays all the time. The Titans are one of the teams that loves to fire on Tuesdays, so we can keep an eye on it. But I look at these 6 jobs, and a lot of it is all relative. It's subjective based on who the coach is, what they are looking for in a job. So I don't think you can have just a completely objective, here's the best job, here's the worst job. But I think there are a lot of things that make the Titans an attractive job. The one thing that you point to, that would be a detractor from that is the Titans ownership. And I think if you're Amy Adams Strunk, you're hoping that that statement that you put out on Friday dissuades some of those concerns of what's going on in that front office. It's a tangled web of leadership. No one knows who's in charge. They've set a structure now. I think that was the goal, was to not make that a red flag for candidates. But you look at the Titans, you've got quarterback going into year 2. Good news on his injury yesterday. Likely going to be able to participate in most of the offseason activities. You've got a top 5 pick. You've got over $100 million in cap space. Nashville's a pretty good city to live. No state income tax. Like, I think there is a lot of things that make this job attractive. Again, it's all subjective based on what the certain candidate wants. But I think you could at worst put this in the middle of the pack among the 6 jobs. I think it's better than Arizona. I think it's better than Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better than Atlanta. Like,
Yeah.
Atlanta, with Michael Penix, do you trust he's going to stay healthy? And even when he is healthy, do you trust that he is that guy moving forward? He's going into year 3. I'm not 100% sold on Michael Penix. And I think the other 3 is more pick your flavor with the Giants, the Raiders, the Titans. Which quarterback do you think is the best? Do you like Cam Ward? Do you like Jackson Dart? Do you want to be part of the process in picking the next quarterback, which you can do with the Raiders? I think that's going to be the question for these candidates if they're offered multiple jobs. But I think the Titans are 3rd or 4th at worst in terms of just if you're looking at what would be most attractive to most candidates.
Yeah, if I'm looking at jobs right now, number 1 on the list for me is the Las Vegas Raiders. That is a job, if I'm an up-and-coming head coach or a coach that knows I can at least get 5 to 6 wins out of a team in year 1, that's the team to do it with. Because more than likely, you're going to draft Mendoza.
Yep.
You already have a stud running back in Ashton Jeanty. You have a perennial tight end in Brock Bowers.
Yep.
And you go draft possibly a wide receiver in round 3, maybe round 2, give or take. Then you have a structured offense.
Yep.
Go supplement some pieces in free agency on defense, and you have a team that could probably compete for the AFC West.
They've got $100 million in cap space too.
Yeah.
So I think with the Raiders and the Titans, the jobs are very similar. It's a question of, do you want to be part of the process of picking a quarterback, or do you want to join a team that already has a quarterback and still has a top 5 pick, right? Because the Raiders aren't going to be able to get Mendoza and Arvell Reese or Carnell Tate or whoever it is the Titans end up taking. The Titans have that first overall pick with a year under his belt and still have that high draft pick that they can use to get another blue chip player. So I think in terms of attractiveness, again, it just depends on what the candidate is looking for. But I don't think the Titans are some job that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I think there's a ton that is at least somewhat attractive about the situation the Titans are in. It's just, can you trust the ownership to give your staff, the front office, time to figure this thing out?
Bingo. That's the one thing that if I'm a head coach candidate, I'm a little worried about that statement that was put out last week by Amy Adams Strunk, primarily because it's only to appease the candidates to say, hey, this is a good job. I promise you. It's a great job.
Don't worry about it.
It's not a dumpster fire here. We're not giving our stuff away to Goodwill. This is a great place to work. I promise you.
No, that is true. That is kind of what it felt like. It was like, please come here. Like, there's no issues. The front office is great. It's great. But if you have to release a statement telling everybody your front office is great, sure, there's some issues.
Here's a $20,000 signing bonus. Give it right now. A brand new car, Nissan.
Just sign. Please. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call our phone lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lots on the show today, including Mike Borgonzi speaking to the media at 10 a.m. I'm really excited to hear what Mike Borgonzi has to say today. I think we're going to learn a lot about his process. He said during the trade deadline press conference that he will speak on the coaching search at some point, but that wasn't the time. Gave maybe an answer or two about it. We're going to learn a lot today. So excited for that. We will air that live and in its entirety coming up at 10 o'clock. We're going to continue talking about the head coaching search on the other side. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Off and running on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Big day. Mike Borgonzi speaking to the media coming up in just about 40 minutes. We'll bring that to you live and in its entirety. Going to hear what the Titans GM has to say as they kick off interviews tomorrow for the Titans head coaching position. And that's where we're starting the show today. What should the Titans do? What does the list look like so far that they've requested to interview? And we went through a lot of the names there. So far, the names that are at least confirmed to at least be scheduled or have been requested to be interviewed: Lou Anarumo, Colts defensive coordinator; Vance Joseph, Broncos defensive coordinator, both coordinators for the Chiefs, Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo; and then the two fired head coaches, Raheem Morris, Kevin Stefanski. They are both going to be in person doing interviews this weekend in Nashville. Out of that list, I think it's pretty obvious Stefanski's the number one name. And it's strange. I think there's mixed feelings on Kevin Stefanski. I saw a lot of people from Cleveland who are saying, good riddance, get out of there. It has Mike Vrabel written all over it.
A little bit.
And maybe that's us being on the outside and not being able to see the underlying issues that were going on with Kevin Stefanski. But it has a Vrabel feel to it of this guy has had success when he's been given the tools to succeed, and the ownership has stayed out of it. But Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, I think it's been made pretty clear those were ownership decisions, and Kevin Stefanski's kind of been left holding the bag. It has Vrabel written all over it, and I'm not saying the Titans have to go hire him and that he has to become number one on their candidate list, because there are other good candidates out there. But Stefanski is one of those guys I wonder if, just like with Vrabel right now, 2 years down the road, Browns fans are looking back and saying, man, why did we fire him? It wasn't his fault. It was everything else going on in the organization.
Yeah, and like the last, 3 to 4 weeks of the season when Shedeur Sanders has been the starting quarterback, there's been that national headline of, well, it looks like Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski are starting to really merge together. This could be a good combo next year, and he's gone. And I'm with you, Jake. There's something about this little Mike Vrabelism with the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski. I can feel it a little bit. I just don't understand why now. Like, I get why, because of the record, but why can't you stick it out one more year? Because I told you in chasing the break, if I'm a head coaching candidate, I'm not touching that Cleveland job with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I don't know why you would sign up to go to Cleveland right now.
Yeah.
Andrew Berry, I'm kind of surprised he kept his job. I mean, not that his drafts have been horrible, and I guess that the Shedeur Sanders pick wasn't his choice as well. Right. I think it was an ownership issue. But, you pick a quarterback in the third round and then pick another one in the fifth round. Like, there's a whole lot of red flags with that Cleveland job. And you can start with just the overall organizational dysfunction that's gone on there for 20 years. Yeah. No one's been able to succeed there. I thought Chase made a good point during the break of coaches have egos, though. And it's like, even if it's a bad job, it is one of 32. All of these guys, no matter who the coach is, they didn't grow up wanting to be the star defensive coordinator of whatever team.
Right.
They want to be a Super Bowl winning head coach. All of them want that job. And Chase made the point of all of them have an ego and think they can fix it. Right? Like, that's every single coaching candidate is going to come in there with a plan and say, well, it didn't work for them, but for me, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to be able to fix it, which is why nobody's job is going to go empty. Like, the Browns are going to have people who are willing to take that job. I just think that given options, like, let's say Kevin Stefanski, I know he's not going back to the Browns, but sure, let's say Kevin Stefanski is offered the job with the Titans, the Cardinals, and the Falcons. He's going to have to weigh what he wants out of those jobs and is going to choose. But for most candidates, they're not going to be offered multiple jobs. They're going to be offered one, and they're going to take it because they want to be a head coach in the National Football League.
Yeah, and if you pass up on it, then you have priorities elsewhere. I don't know why you'd pass up on a job like that. I kind of want to look at this Titans job real quick, and the two candidates you mentioned, Spagnuolo and Nagy. How much of Steve Spagnuolo's interview with the Titans will be asked about Matt Nagy.
I do wonder if that's more of a fact-finding mission than it is actually trying to interview Steve Spagnuolo. I think Nagy is the leader in the clubhouse. I said it during the first segment. If I had to pick a favorite, it's Nagy, but I would take the field over Nagy. I still think it's more likely to be somebody else, but if I had to pick a favorite, I think it's Nagy. I do think that Borgonzi likes Matt Nagy. The Athletic article that came out a week or two ago, looking into Matt Nagy and his road back to being a head coaching candidate again, talked about how Nagy helped Borgonzi prepare for the Titans GM interview process and all that. There's clearly a relationship there. I think there's a reason he was one of the first ones that the Titans reached out to. Part of it is just his team was eliminated. He was available first. But I do think when there's smoke, there's fire. But Borgonzi's not stupid. He's not going to just say, well, I like Nagy, I'm going to hire him. I think he's trying to make sure that he is thorough. And I agree with you. That's a good point, that I think the Spagnuolo interview is a lot more about Nagy than it is about Spagnuolo.
Yeah, and Spagnuolo's had his time as a head coach with the Giants, right? I mean, he's had his time as that head coach of the NFL. Sure, I don't know what his aspirations are as the DC right now as Kansas City, but if he does want to be a head coach, good for him. If I'm Spagnuolo, my gut feeling is Kansas City's going to run this thing back another year.
Yeah,
wouldn't you think?
For me, I always thought Spagnuolo was done trying to be a head coach.
Right.
Like, I talk about all coaches want to be a head coach, but he'd done it, and he's been such a successful defensive coordinator, and he's been good enough over the past 5 to 10 years to get another head coaching opportunity, and it didn't seem like he was trying. It seems like a strange timing for him to just be like, let's throw my hat in the ring again and see what happens. But I don't know. The list that's out right now is lackluster, I would say, but a large reason for that is a lot of the best candidates are still coaching, right? Like that's how it works. The coaches that people want are coaching for good teams, and those teams are still in the playoffs right now. So we will see what the Titans process looks like. And again, Mike Borgonzi going to speak at the top of the hour to media, talk about the head coaching search and much more. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's check in on the text line. This is a good point from Doug and Franklin, Nick. I wonder what Stefanski learned about the Tennessee Titans when Vrabel was on his staff last year. And I do wonder if maybe that's something that you need to factor in, is that I would guess Vrabel had some conversations with Stefanski about what happened here in Nashville. Is that something that Stefanski took to heart and is maybe like, I don't know if I want to sign up for that?
It's a possibility. I mean, again, there's 6 other jobs open right now. I mean, look, Stefanski can go look at another job because, like, if it comes down to the finances of it all, yes, the Tennessee Titans are an appealing job if you look at it that way. But look, Arizona's out there. Again, I said my front runner is the Raiders. I think Stefanski and the Raiders would go perfectly together for him being a 2-time coach of the year. And what you did with that offense, you could probably do that again with the Raiders in a new window where, again, they have the second most in cap space right now, around that number.
Yeah.
Again, you could go supplement that defensively and go just load up in the draft offensively. There you go.
The head coaching carousel is going to be interesting this year because there's no job. Is there ever a job that comes open in the NFL that's perfect, right? Like there are more attractive jobs, there are less attractive jobs, but I think all of the jobs out there right now, you can see obvious flaws. And there's not really a perfect candidate out there. There's not these guys that it's like, yeah, 100% they're getting a job in this cycle, right? Last year, Ben Johnson, you didn't know where he was going, but he was getting a job somewhere. I think Vrabel was the same, and you felt pretty confident it was going to be New England. This year, I don't think you can point to 1 or 2 guys that it's like, yeah, we don't know which of the 6 teams they're going to, but they're going to go somewhere. Stefanski's maybe the only guy that I think you feel good about.
Yeah.
But I thought Vrabel was going to get a job after he got fired with the Titans, and he didn't for a year. So who knows?
Maybe Robert Saleh is that second guy. If that is the case, if he does want to leave San Francisco, if all the wheels fall off the wagon over there, if Trent Williams is possibly, done with what he wants to do because he's currently nursing a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Like all those guys are aging. Like Father Time is still undefeated. Maybe that window is closing. I don't know. But that's probably the second candidate that I think is a solidified head coach somewhere in this league. Another one that we haven't really talked about, we kind of touched on in the first segment, was Clint Kubiak with Seattle.
Yeah.
That's a name I like on my radar. That could be, when that opportunity opens up for him to interview.
Well, he's available to interview now because they have a bye. But I have not seen the Titans request him yet. I know the Falcons did yesterday. So that is an interesting name. There's one more name that I've mentioned to you guys in the past that we haven't talked about much, that I just have a little feeling if I had to pick a dark horse candidate that I think is going to get it, it would be this guy. We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, Mike Borgonzi speaking to the media in about 30 minutes. No, he is not. We will. Excuse me. We're going to keep it going here. We'll stay right here. We're going to go to break. Okay, we'll go to break. We'll be right back. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Talking Titans head coaching search. Mike Borgonzi is going to speak at the top of the hour, but the confusion there is we will not be able to air it, so we will update you as things are coming in, but we cannot air it live. We will try and get some clips for you throughout the show today, but that was the confusion there at the end of the break.
It's all good.
All good. So we will not be able to air Mike Borgonzi live, but we will update you on anything important that he says when he steps to the podium coming up at 10 a.m. I mentioned heading into the break that there's a dark horse guy that I have a weird feeling about. Again, I wouldn't say I would put him as the favorite. I still think Nagy is the most likely. Jeff Hafley with the Packers. I don't know what it is. I just think that he checks a lot of boxes for what the Titans are looking for. Does have head coaching experience, but he's a coordinator with the Packers who I think the ceiling is high, but the floor is also a little bit higher because he has led a program before. He has had coaching experience, but we don't know what he can do in the NFL. I just think that might be a happy medium for the Titans between these retread head coaches who have failed at the NFL level, but maybe not one of these coordinators who is a little bit more of an unknown, like a Joe Brady or a Chris Shula or one of those guys.
Yeah, look, Jeff Hafley, not a bad option. The fact that he's with a winning organization in the Green Bay Packers, that obviously they're in the playoffs, it makes a lot of sense. I think the injury of Micah Parsons for them defensively is kind of deterred, I'd say, a few people from maybe looking at him as a true candidate, because when you don't have your key players, it kind of reflects on you as a defensive coordinator of what you show as fronts and coverages and stuff. So that might be something else to give a gander at when, looking at candidates. But yeah, interesting, I guess, candidate there. Cause yeah, he has that coaching experience at Boston College. And you're right. There are a lot of question marks as what he can do or can't do in the NFL as a head coach.
I think you're looking for somebody who has the leadership qualities and has the experience of running a program, because I think it is just the pendulum swinging back a little bit, but the I don't want to say incompetence, but just the inexperience of Brian Callahan and the incompetence that bred scares me a little bit, of bringing in a first-time head coach who's learning on the job. I think Chris Shula is a good candidate. I like Jesse Minter. I like Clint Kubiak, but there is a little part of me that's just like, man, do you want to bring in somebody else who is going to be learning on the job? If you do that, I wonder if Borgonzi and this front office say, all right, we're going to hire you. We believe in you and the ceiling that you have. We think that you're going to progress and be a good head coach, but we need to help you hire your offensive staff or your defensive staff, whatever it is, and bring in somebody experienced. Like, I'm trying to think of an example of, if you bring in like Jesse Minter, bring in an offensive coordinator who isn't up and coming, right? An established guy who can come in, and that way you're not worried about, like we had with Callahan, first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, first-time special teams coordinator. If you're going to bring in a first-time head coach, I think you need some experience elsewhere on the staff.
Yeah, my one word that I'm going to hold on to in 2026 for this Tennessee Titans team going into the fall: continuity. That's the one thing I want to see out of this roster, front office, is continuity. The one problem I have right now going into the offseason with the Tennessee Titans is they do not have continuity with the quarterback position and the coach. That is my biggest issue. That's why I've been the advocate for Bo Hardegree as staying on this staff and continuing to work with Cam Ward. Maybe he's not the guy of the future. I get that. But yet the guy has a little continuity going into the offseason.
That's going to be up to the head coach of, and maybe it's an ego thing too. Like we talked about, coaches have egos of, can you put the ego aside, and do you think that the continuity of keeping Bo Hardegree will help Cam Ward? Or is it the head coach comes in and says, he's not one of my guys, I'm going to get my guys in here to teach Cam my way.
Right.
So that's an interesting thought, because Bo Hardegree has been the guy for Cam, and you saw growth, right? Like, I'm not going to give Bo Hardegree all the credit for it, but you also can't say that he had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
He's the play caller for the final 14 games of the year. Cam Ward started to show a lot of progress down the stretch of the season. I think when you look at Bo Hardegree, there are reasons that you could look at and say maybe he should stick around. But I also would understand if you bring in a head coach like a Matt Nagy or Mike McCarthy, that they don't want Cam Ward, I guess, falling back on the old stuff when they're trying to teach him new stuff. Like, it's like, hey, we're putting in this new system. We don't want you to fall back into, well, I've been working with Bo. I'm going to do what Bo says, not what the new coaching staff says.
That's fair. For me, the biggest Achilles heel in this is I might be getting fooled from the Titans results in December when they basically scored 24 points in every single game in the month of December. That, to me, I would say reflects on the play calling, and obviously it reflects on the growth of Cam Ward a little bit. But I'd lean a little bit more on the play calling than Cam Ward, because there's the narrative a couple weeks ago when Terry McCormick was on with Chase and McJoe about the hero ball comment. I don't know how much of that is truly the hero ball that's getting them to the 24 points, or if it's the play calling complemented with decent play from Cam Ward. That's my biggest conundrum I'm dealing with in my brain.
Yeah, there's a lot to sort out for the Titans this offseason. And number one question is, how do you get the most out of Cam Ward? Titans are going through that with their head coaching search right now. And, of course, we'll do that throughout free agency and the draft. Mike Borgonzi going to speak to the media at 10. Again, we will update you on anything important that Borgonzi says up there at the podium. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey has called in. Trey, thanks for calling. What you got this morning?
Good morning. Hey, I just want to say that me personally, my concern is that I'm really not too worried about the coach situation. I do want somebody to come in here that has depended on their defense, somebody that has a recognizable defense out there, that because that's basically our problem, really. To really put it out there is our defense. Our defense is notwithstanding with this league. I want somebody to come in here and basically build up our defense along with Jeffrey. You know what, bro? That if Jeffrey Simmons doesn't get a championship ring, he will probably be one of the only players out of the state of Tennessee without one. So this is crucial that we need somebody that's going to come in here and build up our defense. I'm not worried about the coach, really. I know Cam is going to get better. I'm saying it on the line. Cam is going to get better, but he needs talented players around him. You can make a Cadillac look like a Ferrari, so it don't really matter who the coach is. They just need somebody to come in here and get some good players for Cam. And I love y'all. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Trey. Trey coming around on Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I mean, he said Cam's going to get better. I understand what he's saying, that, the old cliche, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. You need good players if this team is going to get better. But the coaching hire is really, really important too.
Yeah, because that goes in hand with the roster construction of this team.
And also just, the locker room and setting a culture. There are plenty of talented teams that have failed because they're not cohesive and they're not well coached. They make too many mistakes. They're sloppy. You need a good coach to come in here. I agree. Finding really good players is the most important thing over the next couple of years for the Titans. Hitting on the 4th overall pick, hitting on the 35th overall pick, doing it again next year with your early picks, finding some gems late, signing good free agents. All of that is going to be the most important thing to getting this team back where it needs to be. But you got to have somebody at the helm who knows what to do with all of those pieces that you're bringing in. This is the most important head coaching hire the Titans have had in a long time.
100%. I think we all take for granted that Mike Mularkey built this franchise out a handful of years ago, and they succeeded with Mike Vrabel to follow that. That's where a lot of Titans fans are a little, I guess, foggy brained when it comes to stuff like that. As for now, this is just my perception on the fan base. They want a win now team. Like, I'd say when they hire this coach, they want results immediately.
Yeah.
Because look at the New England Patriots right now. They were terrible last season. You bring in Mike Vrabel, what happens? They're in the playoffs, and not even in the playoffs. They're the second seed in the AFC.
I said it yesterday. 4th overall pick, over $100 million in cap space, second-year quarterback, first-year head coach.
That is a recipe for playoffs.
That's what the Patriots had last year. That's what the Titans have this year. Not saying you have to use those resources correctly, but it's been done with the exact same resources. The roster around Drake May, probably a little bit better than what the Titans have right now, but it is possible to get this thing turned around fast. And I think you're right. Titans fans want this turned around fast. This team was so close a couple of years between 2019 and 2021. You had opportunities to go to a Super Bowl, go win a Super Bowl. You had the team to do it, and you came up short. You couldn't get it done. This team isn't, this fan base cannot have 5 more years of mediocrity.
No.
You need to figure this out quick, and that starts with this head coaching hire. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue talking the Titans head coaching search coming up next. Mike Borgonzi going to speak at 10. What do you want to hear from him? And again, we are not going to air it live, but we will play clips for you. We will give you any information that comes out of the press conference. But what do you want to hear from Mike Borgonzi today as it relates to his first full offseason as the Titans general manager? 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. That was Cam Ward yesterday. Lots of confidence in his general manager, Mike Borgonzi, who is going to speak at the top of the hour. Again, we will not be able to air it live, but we will update you, play some clips as the show goes along. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. First time we've heard from Mike Borgonzi since that post-trade deadline press conference that I think inspired a lot of confidence from the Titans fan base. I mean, pretty much every time Chad Brinker spoke, everybody's eyes just rolled into the back of their heads and was like, man, this is the guy who's running the show for us. And when Borgonzi did that 30-minute press conference after the trade deadline and really showed a vision for what he wanted for this team, I think everybody said, no, this is the guy who should be running the show. And now we know officially, at least Amy Adams Strunk put out there, that Mike Borgonzi now in a more traditional GM role, he is spearheading the coaching search. And I'm excited to hear what he has to say because this is a turning point offseason for the Tennessee Titans. Amy Adams Strunk is not going to be very happy if this team is not at least competitive when the new stadium opens in 2027. You do not want to put losing football on the field in a new stadium because tickets are going to be more expensive. Fans are going to stop coming out if there's no reason to come watch this team play. This is a turning point offseason because if Cam Ward's not the guy, if this head coach isn't the guy, if this GM isn't the guy, this team's going to be really bad for a couple more years. So they have to get this offseason right. That starts with the head coach, and I'm sure that's most of what Mike Borgonzi is going to be speaking about today.
Absolutely. And look, like you said, if this is not the right quarterback, not the right coach, it sets the franchise back not 5 years, but 10 years, in my opinion. This is something that can really just deter fans from going to the games. I mean, look, the best seat in the house is on your couch. If you don't want to pay those prices.
Right. I mean, the ticket prices, it's not hard to get into the current Nissan Stadium, right? Like the way the team is playing, day of, you could buy tickets for $10, $15 and get in for some of these games.
Yeah.
The new stadium, that's not going to be the case. With the prices these season ticket holders are paying for the PSLs and for their yearly season ticket prices, they're not going to be just giving these tickets away. So if you want to go see this Titans play, it's going to cost you money no matter what the product is on the field. People aren't going to pay those prices if the team's not very good. But if Cam Ward takes a big jump in year two, if this team is competitive for a playoff spot next year, even if they don't get there, you're going to head into 2027 feeling like this team is ready to step back into the spotlight and be a contender in the AFC. That's exactly what this team needs with that new stadium opening. And the new stadium's not everything. You want this team to be good no matter what.
Right.
But I'm saying in an ownership sense, if that new stadium is empty all of 2027, heads are going to roll.
I would be scratching my head as to why this doesn't work out. And it's because I don't know. I look at this Brinker-Borgonzi dynamic as Brinker kind of took the reins this past season as the front man to give Borgonzi a little bit time to get used to his position.
Yeah, it felt
That's
like
what it feels like.
Right? Kind of like a handoff.
Yes.
Like, all right, Brinker's just going to be this connector between Carthon and Borgonzi for a year to transition. And now it's all Borgonzi.
From what we know of.
At least that's what we're being told.
Yes, from what we know of. Because, look, if it's all a part of the plan of appeasing the next head coach to be a part of this franchise, and then the structure is still the same way, but then somehow gradually goes back to Brinker being the front man of all this, that's where I'd be concerned as a Titans fan. Because I'm again, this team can pull a fast one on you any day of the week. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, though.
I am very cautious in having any optimism for this team because of just how poorly run it's been for the last few years.
Right.
And Chad Brinker has a lot to do with that. But based on what we've seen from Mike Borgonzi, I believe that he is the right guy. Of the people you have right now, he is the right guy to be approaching this.
Yeah.
This press conference isn't everything, but I think he's going to at least shed some light on the qualities that he's looking for in a head coach. Maybe an answer. I don't know if he's going to speak on any specific candidate, but maybe an answer on why so many defensive guys that he's looking into. Is that just a leadership thing, or is that something where, and I've spoken on it before, you hire a defensive guy, your offensive guy is focused solely on Cam and this offense rather than being the CEO of the team.
Yeah.
Because Brian Callahan struggled with that of, am I the head coach? Am I the offensive guru? do you want to make sure there's no split there and your offensive guy is solely focused on the offense? I think Mike Borgonzi has a lot of big questions that need to be answered heading into this offseason because, again, this offseason is going to decide what this team is for the next 3 years.
Look, I'm not saying that whatever Mike Borgonzi says offensively or defensively, if he gives any tells in this press conference, but to me, I'd be listening in to hear if Borgonzi has a lot to say about Cam Ward. To me, that would tend to think that he's looking at an offensive head coach, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, if he's talking a little bit more defensive wise, that would lean to make me think he's looking more defensive head coach.
Yeah.
Again, that's not what I'm trying to decipher in this press conference to listen to, but that's something to keep in the back of your mind. And to Cam Ward's point that we came back with on that clip, he spoke very highly about Mike Borgonzi. I want to know if he kind of speaks the same way about Cam Ward.
Yeah, I think Borgonzi in that press conference in November did say we feel like we have a franchise quarterback in Cam Ward. So I'll be interested to see his thoughts on Cam, his rookie season as a whole, the way he developed down the stretch. And also, I don't know if he's going to get into it. I'd like to hear a little bit on what his strategy is going to be for player acquisition this summer. And I know he's not going to give anything away, but just a question of like, how aggressive is this team going to be in free agency this year? Do you feel like this is a free agency where you can spend a lot of money because you have so much cap space? Where are going to be areas that you are going to prioritize your resources this offseason? Stuff like that. I think his answer will probably be, hey, we're going to worry about that when the time comes. We're talking about that behind the scenes, but we'll have free agency and draft conversations later on down the road. But I would like to hear at least a little bit about what the strategy is going to be this offseason, because the Titans need a lot of players in a lot of different spots, and they've got to be good ones, right? Like
offensive line being one for me.
Really?
Yes.
We can talk about that on the other side. Again, Mike Borgonzi is going to speak. The offensive line is an interesting spot this offseason because it did get better down the stretch, but of course it's not an elite group by any means. So we can talk about that on the other side, and we'll update you on anything of note that comes out of Mike Borgonzi's press conference, which starts in a little under 5 minutes. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Second hour on this Tuesday. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Titans head coaching search is underway. Already plenty of interviews that have been requested, scheduled, and we are learning more about what the Titans may be looking for. Mike Borgonzi is about to step to the podium, so we will update you if anything of note comes from that. We'll try and play some clips for you later in the show as well. We were talking about the Titans' strategy for the offseason because I was hoping to hear some of that from Mike Borgonzi today, and we'll see if anything comes of it. But you mentioned the offensive line. And I think it was Mike Herndon did a piece for PaulKaharski.com earlier this week about the offensive line and what the Titans should do this offseason. And his thought was, keep it together. Yeah, maybe Zeitler leaves. He was only on a one-year deal. You got Jackson Slater behind him if you want, or you could go find a plug-and-play guy. They're going to be experienced veteran right guards who are available in free agency that you can go and find. So, and I lean that way. I think that the Titans should try and keep as much continuity with this offensive line as they can. They've been interchanging guys left and right for the past 5 years, and it just hasn't worked out. Even last year, yes, 3 of the guys you brought back were the same guys, but you shifted J.C. Latham from left to right, and then J.C. gets hurt. And you finally started to see a little bit of a cohesive unit at the end of the year. They were opening holes in the run game. They were protecting Cam Ward better. I lean towards, hey, let's give this group a chance. Go with Moore, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Slater / free agent, and Latham at right tackle. And you see what happens. And you see if that group with a second year under their belt can take another stride. And if you need to use a pick on a tackle, if J.C. Latham doesn't work out, you let Dan Moore go after 2 years, you should have more resources and less holes in the 2027 offseason that you can use to go find that guy.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point because that is something that I mentioned earlier in the show is continuity. Yes, probably keep that group together. But with doing that, maybe supplement some of that in free agency and grab a guy where you can start training them. It's like a sponge. You let them absorb the water in year 1, maybe push them into year 2 and year 3. They put all of it together. Maybe that's the case. And maybe that's the case for this current unit. Maybe that's the situation. But I'm still in the camp of free agency. You got to grab somebody on the offensive line because of the comments that were made yesterday with J.C. Latham in the locker room that were kind of scrolling all through Twitter about his hip injury and how he kind of came back a little early and probably should have, not have rushed it for the most part. To me, that's concerning, and it kind of leads as to why there were so many false start penalties. And I was telling you this in the break, is that he wanted to get out of his set pretty quick, but when you do that, you're going to lead to false starts, and he led the position at false starts with that around the league.
Dan Moore and J.C. Latham were definitely not perfect this year.
Right.
But with the investment that you put into those two guys, you just can't move on from them. I would be fine bringing in a swing tackle. Bring in a guy who can maybe push them a little bit and be a safety net in case injury happens again. Oli Udoh was actually not horrible this year. But let's see. Who are free agents at tackle in 2026? Because I could see the Titans adding some competition in that room and just having somebody as a break glass in case of emergency type of guy.
A lot of the Browns' offensive line are free agents.
The entire offensive line actually is free agents. And if I'm looking at a guard to bring in, maybe this is the inner Hokie in me. I really like Wyatt Teller. He was an all-pro type player a couple of years ago. I don't think he's been quite that guy since. I'm not an offensive line expert, but I do like Wyatt Teller. And he's only 31. You probably wouldn't have to give him a long-term deal. It all depends on what the Titans think of Jackson Slater. Like, we talk about Jackson Slater very highly, but he was still a 5th-round pick.
Somewhere around that.
So
ballpark.
Out of Sacramento State, I think there's a lot to like with him, but I also don't think it's just, cut and dry, signed, sealed, delivered. He's your right guard next year.
Yeah.
The Titans are going to have to look at other options. But you look at the offensive linemen, you're not going to be shopping at the top of the market. You gave $80 million to Dan Moore last year. J.C. Latham was the 7th overall pick. There's no reason to bring in a guy for, Braden Smith, I guess, or let's see, who is the Rasheed Walker, the Packers left tackle. is expected to get $20 million, according to Spot Track.
Pass.
You're not going to be doing that. But if you look down, maybe you bring in Braxton Jones from the Bears. That's a guy who's had some experience. They value him at $5 million. I know Jermaine Illuminor was talked about as a possible right tackle a few years ago when he was in free agency. He's a free agent again, coming from the Giants. Maybe that's a guy you look at. So I think the Titans should add on the offensive line, but maybe not add starters.
Right.
I think you need more depth, but continuity is important for an offensive line, and giving those guys a chance to mesh, having your left side of the line be more Skoronski, Cushenberry again, and hoping J.C. Latham stays healthy and takes another step as a third-year player. I think that is a good strategy for the Titans, at least for now, considering the resources you have. Now, if the Titans were in a position to trade back out of the first overall pick, if they had gotten it, sure, you might have extra picks that you feel like you can go take a tackle.
Right.
You got it. I think you have to go edge wide receiver in some order with your first two picks. I know best player available. You don't want to reach just because of need. And sure, there's a scenario where maybe a cornerback is ranked way above the next wide receiver when you're picking at the top of the second round. But those are the two positions where you are in desperate need of high-end talent. And the only way you're going to get that is with your first and second round picks.
That's very true. And to the free agent point of the offensive line, and I've mentioned this before, probably way back in August or September when I was already out on this team, but in week 4. But you, as Mike Borgonzi, as the general manager, you have to go to free agency and get those guys coming off of rookie deals that are 25, 26 years old, and just, they don't have to start. They just have to, again, be the sponge, absorb in year 1, apply it in year 2, and hopefully year 3, and maybe if it's a 4-year deal, they are along for the ride and they can kind of develop as the time goes on. That's when you can really get something there in a window that you have a new core. There's that continuity that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
You can keep that top line right now, but that next wave has to be ready.
I agree with you that this 5 the Titans have is not the long-term solution.
No.
Dan Moore is going to be gone after next year. I still think it's hilarious they signed him to that 4-year deal. And when you look at it, it's not a 4-year deal. It's a 2-year deal.
Right.
There is zero dead cap if they cut him next year, at least from what I looked at. I'm pretty sure that they have a clean out after next year.
Let's see here.
I've got it on Spot Track. Yes. So potential out, you save close to $50 million over 2 years with zero dead cap if you cut him. It's a 2-year deal. So Dan Moore is not going to be your left tackle in 2027.
Right.
But he at least gives you that Band-Aid that you don't feel like you have to draft a tackle this year. Now, let's say you take an edge, you take a wide receiver with your first 2 picks. You're sitting there at the top of the 3rd round, and there's a tackle that you really like that slipped to you. I would be perfectly fine taking that. Now, you would hope you addressed cornerback in free agency at that point, because right now it's a wasteland at cornerback for the Titans. But if you can find a tackle that you think you can develop with a year behind Dan Moore to be your left tackle of the future, I would be perfectly fine with that. The Titans just can't afford to be spending premium picks on offensive linemen again when they've had to do it in 5 of the last 6 drafts.
Mm-hmm. And look, even Joe Dubin has said it. Draft playmakers. Like that's what the Titans have been missing the last couple of years. Sure, they need help at the offensive line, but draft playmakers in your top 3 rounds, then you supplement that in 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
If, like you said, if it's there.
The Titans have just been missing, outside of A.J. Brown, they have been missing a go-to wide receiver and a game-wrecking edge rusher forever. I mean, have the Titans really had a game-wrecking edge rusher in the last 15 years?
Not.
I mean, there's been seasons, right? Like
Right.
Harold Landry has had a 12-sack season, but a guy that teams are saying on the edge, if we don't block this guy, he's going to ruin our entire game plan. And you only really find those guys at the top of the draft. The Titans need that. They need a playmaker for Cam Ward. I like Jim Dike. I like Alec Iamaner. I don't think either of them are a wide receiver 1. You need to find that. Offensive line, what you have right now is solid.
Right.
It's not going to be your offensive line for the next 5 to 10 years, but it's solid for right now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, Mike Borgonzi is currently speaking to the media. Haven't gotten a ton of updates there, but we'll keep you in the loop if anything of note comes from it. Can you guess the cliche Mike Borgonzi started his press conference with?
Nothing's coming to the brain.
No one likes losing.
Really?
No one likes losing.
Okay.
That's a old faithful for end of season press conferences for head coaches or GMs. No one likes losing. So we'll update you if Mike Borgonzi says anything of note. We'll play some clips for you later on in the show as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Mike Borgonzi currently speaking at the podium, but I guess the lights went out on him, which it was funny. Me and Nick were watching it, and it looked like he was like one of the hidden characters in Super Smash Bros. Or something like that. It's like, who could it be?
Need to reach level 10 to use this character.
It's Mike Borgonzi. So Mike Borgonzi speaking at the podium. I guess they're having some technical difficulties, but we will keep you updated. Haven't really heard anything too much so far. I'm searching through Twitter, and there's not really anything of note that's being put out there outside of the power outage. So we will let you know if anything interesting comes. But we were talking about the Titans offseason strategy, and with the offensive line, we said that you probably can't take an offensive lineman with one of your first 2 picks. Let's spend some time on the edge here, because the Titans have not spent a first-round pick on a edge pass rusher. I mean, they've spent one on Jeffrey Simmons, obviously, early on. Derek Morgan was the last one, and that was 2009, 2010?
Around that time, I believe so. Let's see here.
I know CJ was a Kenny
2010.
Britt was 09, yes.
Yeah.
So,
16
yes,
overall.
2010, Derek Morgan. Last time the Titans picked a pass rusher on the edge with their first-round pick. I said it yesterday. I think there are 5 names that you could pick with that 4th overall pick. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. Those are the 2 best wide receivers. Then Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese, David Bailey from Texas Tech. And as we went through the show yesterday, I think David Bailey is a guy that I'm kind of zeroing in on. We're so far away, but just like reading the tea leaves early of what these guys are. I think David Bailey checks a lot of boxes for the Titans in terms of he is a pure outside pass rusher. He has the measurables to be out on the edge, but he's also productive in college. And so I think edge is where the Titans end up going early on in the draft. TD has made the point multiple times that wide receivers, yeah, your Jamar Chases are at the top of the first round, but there's also Sammy Watkins and Justin Blackmon and Corey Davis at the top of the first round. You can find elite wide receivers later on. Devontae Adams was a 2nd-round pick. A.J. Brown was a 2nd-round pick. So I think if the Titans are looking at positional value and where you're going to find the blue chip players, the elite edge rushers are almost exclusively found in the first 10 picks. There are exceptions. Max Crosby was a 4th-round pick. Not all of them. But for the most part, your top edge rushers in the league are the ones that are taken very high. And I think that's why the Titans are going to go that way in the first round. I think wide receiver becomes a 2nd-round pick. Maybe you try and trade back into the first round if there's a wide receiver you really like.
Yeah, look, I've been all on the Jeremiah Smith 2027 campaign. Do I think the Titans are going to be decent in 26? Potentially. My bold prediction with Joe was that they'd make the playoffs in 2026, so we'll see what happens there. I'm on the camp of edge rusher with Ruben Bain. He's been my pick since the very beginning. I'm going to stick with it. Obviously, he has the I'd say the knock of the arm length. It's 30 inches, give or take, something like that. Don't knock a guy like that. He still is a perennial game wrecker. They're still in the college football playoff. Round 1, when they went to College Station, blocked a field goal, was disrupting the entire offensive line of Texas A&M. They go into the 2nd game against Ohio State. Again, another game-wrecking performance. All this guy does is get to the quarterback and disrupt the offensive line. That's what the Titans need right now.
I think Ruben Bain is going to be a very, very good player at the NFL level. It just comes down to how high can you take him, knowing he's probably going to be on the interior.
It's fair.
There are players that are worth it to take early. And is anybody saying that, Aaron Donald, they took him too early at 14? No. I think I said it yesterday with Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love because somebody texted in and said, you're missing Downs and Love. I think Bain, he's not quite in that category of it's a luxury pick, but I think it's one of those things where the Titans, they need that pure outside pass rusher that is going to instill fear in the tackles on the other side. And I think Bain is probably going to be inside at the end of his career. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
And if the Titans picked him at 4, I don't think it would be a bad pick. But I think you're looking for somebody who you can put on the outside. And now defenses have to deal with Simmons and this guy. And maybe Big Sweat takes a step forward. I know Jeffrey Simmons said he's dragging him to Dallas this offseason. So there's a long way to go till the draft. But just looking at the Titans' offseason strategy, I think the way you're going to prioritize it is, I think you're looking for cornerbacks in free agency.
Yep.
I would be stunned if the Titans don't, if one of their biggest signings in free agency is not a cornerback, I would be stunned. I think you're looking for edge and wide receiver at the top of the draft, and then you're supplementing in other places. Maybe you go get a running back. Maybe it's another offensive tackle like you talked about. You're going to need multiple cornerbacks. I think the big spots you need are edge and wide receiver. You find those in the draft. You use free agency and your late round picks to supplement the other holes that you have around the roster.
That's fair. I see the knock on Ruben Bain, and I mentioned it with the arm length. And again, if you're an edge rusher in the NFL, you want that extra extension when you want to set the edge. Because, again, edge rusher position, but you want to set the edge with your arm. You want to have that, extension in there that you're able to get more room to really see what you have with that tackle. Whereas for Ruben Bain, the plus side for him is he can get that push when it comes to going up against that tackle. So I see it both ways. I don't know.
I really like Ruben Bain.
Yeah.
And again, I wouldn't be disappointed if they take Ruben Bain. Like, I understand the notes that people have of guys with that arm length who are taking that high usually don't produce at the elite level that you look for from edge rushers, right? Like that's the reason the 31-inch arms are a problem, is because historically guys with arms that short have not lived up to top 10 billing.
It's fair
as a draft pick. But he's a really good player.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned it on Friday of last week of the rep against the right tackle for Ohio State, where Ruben Bain bull rushed him, knocked him over, and he just laid there like a starfish for a couple of seconds. He was like, I just need a break. I need a break from Ruben Bain.
So I'm not mistaken, that was a freshman at right tackle for Ohio State.
Yeah, you might have been right. He was having himself a day. And think of all of the jokes we could make if Ruben Bain ends up being good.
Oh man, just
you merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it.
I was born in it. Yeah, I mean, Ruben Bain is, to your point about the 4th overall pick. If you draft him, that's great at that position, but I could see that afterthought of probably could have done better.
I think it's just a worry of, yeah, he's going to be a really good player. Is he going to be the player that you take 4th overall?
Right.
Right. Like that is the problem. Is I think you're getting a good player, but do you want to take a player who's probably more of an early teens pick than a 4th overall pick? Matthew in Nashville pointing out Aaron Donald had short arms too. Jeff Fisher took a chance on him, and now he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I understand that. You can't go into a draft pick saying, well, if he's Aaron Donald, then it's a great pick.
Aaron Donald's wired differently. That guy was in the weight room almost every single day in the offseason, during the year, etc.
When he took his shirt off at a college game day today, I was like, man, that dude hasn't been playing football for 2 years, and he is still just carved from stone. Chip from Mount Juliet says, pray the quarterbacks go high, Titans trade back a few spots, get a few extra picks. Here's where I stand on that, is I think quarterbacks could go 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk Ty Simpson later on in the show because there's a lot swirling around him. But if Ty Simpson does come out, which seems to be the likeliest scenario with him, I think quarterbacks end up going 1, 2, 3. The Cardinals are desperate enough. I think they're going to take one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they end up saying, you know what, we'll bridge it for 1 year and see what we can do in 2027. I think they'll go quarterback.
Mm. If
somebody's willing to trade up for one of these non-quarterbacks, are the Titans in any position to not just take that guy? You need good players. If a guy is good enough that, I don't know, the Giants or the Rams or somebody like that wants to come up and say, I want that guy, are you in a position to say, we don't need him? We'll take the extra picks.
I think they kind of are.
I know they need extra picks, but it's like you need elite players. And if you can get the pick of the best player who's not a quarterback, so probably the best player in the draft at number 4, and somebody's willing to trade up, Titans need a player like that.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant answering this question because, again, it goes back to the thought of what Joe Dubin has mentioned in drafting playmakers, and that would be a playmaker. I don't know why I have faith that the Titans can somehow scout their way and finagle their way into getting 2 picks in the first round and, again, get 2 playmakers. I don't know.
I mean, I could understand that it all works out, and it's like you trade back to 7, you take Ruben Bain there, and you can get Mekhi Lemon later in the first round or something like that, and you still have your second-round pick. Like, what if that works out? It's best case scenario, and guess what? you still don't know what that guy you're trading, whether, let's say it's Arvell Reese that everybody falls in love with and says he's the next Micah Parsons, because that's the comp that's being put out there. Keegan made a good point yesterday that maybe it's just because he plays off the ball and on the edge, but what if he's the next Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
If he is, and Ruben Bain ends up being, a really good 3 tech, and Mekhi Lemon turns into a wide receiver 1, like, you could say the trade was a success, but it's like, man, you could really use that elite game-wrecking edge rusher. I think the Titans probably aren't in a position to trade out of taking the best player in the draft.
That's fair, because they do need an edge rusher. That is a very valid point. I don't know. There's just a little bit of a optimistic standpoint of they could trade out of that 4th overall pick and still get a perennial player.
I know.
don't know.
It's
because they're in a tough spot. If they had 3, I say all in the world, they have every bit of the might to trade out of it. 4,
if it was for a quarterback, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you're trading away a pick that you probably
need,
it's tough. I can see it both ways, because I understand that more draft capital is better.
Right.
But the what if of trading away an elite blue chip player is concerning to me.
And they don't come by that often.
Right. You hope you don't pick in the top 5 every year. And to get an opportunity to take a player like that who could become a franchise player for you, either on defense or as a wide receiver, if somebody else wants to come up and take him, you should probably just take the guy. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. A couple of updates from Mike Borgonzi's press conference. He said, talking about Matt Nagy, I assume the question, you have to remove a biased opinion on anybody. If you have a relationship with any of the candidates, you have to make the right decision and make the best hire. So that's what I expected him to say about Matt Nagy. Didn't expect him to step up there and say, yeah, it's my buddy. I think he's probably going to be the guy. But it's good to hear from Borgonzi. He also said that it will be the head coach's decision on who will be retained among the assistants. Let's talk about that on the other side, because it was reported yesterday by Paul Kaharski that none of the assistants have been fired at this point. They're going to let the next head coach make that decision. Who do we think the Titans should keep on? We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Mike Borgonzi is speaking at the podium right now. Some interesting stuff. We're going to talk about the who could end up being retained from the previous staff. But Mike Borgonzi just said that Will Levis does have a role for us in 2026. I think it's smoke and mirrors. I really do. I do not see any scenario where he is on this team when training camp starts.
I look at this two ways. First way, it just increases trade stock potentially.
Right. I think that's what he's doing.
Or two, let's just DEFCON 5. If Cam Ward's AC joint injury in his shoulder doesn't seem to be what everybody thinks it is, and it might be a little bit more serious than everyone thinks, maybe Will Levis has worked his way back into a starting role. I don't know. Again, that's DEFCON 5. Should not have put it out there, but I put it out there.
There's I still say zero chance. I think Mike Borgonzi is doing exactly that. He's trying to say, yeah, we still want Will Levis. We're not just going to give him away. Yeah. Somebody is going to want to trade for Will Levis. He'll go to one of the Guru's rehabilitation clinics where he is, like Sam Darnold did in San Francisco, and he will be somebody's backup for a year and then get an opportunity as a starter somewhere. It's not going to be here. I will stand by that until the first day of training camp when Will Levis walks out on the field. If he walks out there at St. Thomas Sports Park, then I'm way off base. I don't see it happening.
Jacksonville, potentially. I mean, they're high on the hog right now.
Who is their backup? We went through is it Nick Mullins?
Yes, it is Nick Mullins.
So, yeah, I could see it. Chip from Mount Juliet just said the same thing. He said Levis, next stop Jags with Liam Cohen. I could see that. And it would be one of those situations, Trevor Lawrence coming off such a good year that it wouldn't be like he's threatening Trevor Lawrence. But I think although do the Titans want to trade him in division becomes the question. I think he's getting traded.
Yeah. Look, I don't care if you trade him in the division, outside the division, a draft pick's a draft pick. If you get that, I'm fine with it because he ain't going to start. Or excuse me, he's not going to start when it comes to in division play. Nonetheless, if Trevor Lawrence gets hurt, but I cannot see him here.
It's as I've said since they drafted Cam Ward, you're inviting the ex to the wedding. It's not a good idea. Don't keep him, but we'll see. I mean, I still say 0% chance, but if Mike Borgonzi, if he surprises me, he surprises me. 4704 says, FYI, DEFCON 5 means normal peacetime operations. I believe you want DEFCON 1, which is nuclear war.
I'm referring to Santa Claus. It's in the movie DEFCON 5.
Oh, yeah. Is that the second one?
Yeah.
Yes. One is a higher
severity.
Yes, yeah. There you go. Skylar says Will Levis to the Rams. I could see that. If Stafford sticks around for another year, maybe that's your transition plan for Levis. Matthew in Nashville says Vegas or Arizona. I could see Arizona. Mm-hmm. I think he's been spending all his time on the West Coast, so maybe that is the right idea. Send him out there to Monty Ossenfort. Was he here when? Yes. No, he wasn't.
That was not with him, but he was here in Tennessee.
Yes. No, he was here, but he left the year before they drafted Levis.
Right.
Because he was the one who made the trade with the Texans the year they drafted Stroud. So, yes, he was not here to draft Will Levis, but maybe that's somewhere that he could go. I like that plan. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We were having the conversation about who should be back from this year's coaching staff. And they're the three names that I think you could put in the maybe category. And I don't know a ton about the positional coaches. Maybe there's a few others. Luke Stalker's the tight ends guy, and maybe that's one of the guys you want to bring back. But I think the big names that people are looking at, we talked about Bo Hardegree earlier. I lean towards no, but I could see why maybe they would want to bring him back. Mm-hmm. The two that you ask seriously about, Bones Fossil, Denard Wilson. I think Bones Fossil is almost an automatic yes. He has to be back. Denard Wilson, it depends on the coach. I lean no. I don't think he should be back.
I'm leaning towards yes. And only reason why I lean towards yes is the comment he made mid-season or near the latter end of the season. He said, I'm dealing with whatever I got. Paraphrasing, I'm just dealing with what I got on the field. Like I can't do much about
Right.
that.
I mean, yeah.
And again, to that point, he's done a lot with I'd say, land of misfit toys when it comes to the defense. Defensive front, great. That's taken care of. Secondary, that's where things need to be taken care of. If it's in the draft, free agency, whatever. I don't know if you can really hold that against him.
Yeah. Denard Wilson was not dealt a very good hand.
Right.
I mean, did he do the most he could with it? I don't know. I think he did his best. I lean towards no on Denard Wilson, but I could see it with the right coach coming in. If they wanted to keep Denard Wilson, it could make sense. I'm going to lean no. I think Fossil's the only one I see that it's like, yes, whoever the head coach is, you got to bring him back.
And again, it goes back to the comment I asked you the first hour with Spagnuolo's interview. How much is that an interview to get to know Nagy and what defense would complement Nagy's offense?
It's a good point. And Mike Borgonzi was asked specifically about Matt Nagy, and his answer was, I have a great relationship with Matt, worked with him for years, did good things in Chicago and Kansas City, said a lot of research will be done on all candidates. So about what you'd expect. I mean, he's not going to be giving away all that much in this press conference.
No.
A couple of other things that have come out of this, talked a little bit about Cam Ward, said Cam went through a lot of adversity during his rookie season. We're looking for a coach, a staff that can help him develop, wants a coach that can take advantage of his strengths and help him and other players develop. He also said there is no timetable on the hire. You have to make the best decision. They are looking for a leader, someone with a clear vision and standards. So, again, I don't know how much we're actually getting out of the press conference here. We're gonna try and get some clips for you to hear it, straight from the horse's mouth from Mike Borgonzi. The text when we were talking about the power going out, I lost who said it, but the who's that Pokemon was what we were looking for.
Might have been Justin and Greenbrier.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Borgonzi. Yes, I think it was Justin from Greenbrier. Yes, it was. There you go. So Mike Borgonzi had the power go out on him early in the press conference. He is, I think he's still up there as of now. And actually, it looks like it has ended. So we will try and get some clips for you on the other side and hear some of the big things that Mike Borgonzi said during his press conference as the Titans gear up for their head coaching search. Already interviews scheduled for this week. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We'd love to hear from you. Again, we'll react to Mike Borgonzi's press conference and much more on the other side. We'll also get into the NFL playoffs in the 11 o'clock hour and the college football transfer portal. Quarterbacks are going all over the place, and there are some interesting rumors with Tennessee. We'll talk about all of that throughout the rest of the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game.
How much is that something you want in that guy? It seems to go with the leader of men kind of.
I think that's gets a little overrated sometimes. I mean, um, leadership can come in a lot of different forms. There's leaders that are more quiet, but they're demanding. The biggest thing is being demanding. You don't always have to be heard, be a big alpha. It's just demanding things out of your players and staff. And then having a vision and having standards in the organization. You certainly don't have to be a big alpha personality to do that.
What qualities you're looking for in this person?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a lot to do with leadership, Paul. It's having a clear vision, having standards for what you do, and then having that person, not be afraid of conflict in a negative way, but being able to hold people accountable is the biggest thing throughout the whole building, Paul. Staff, players, and how do you do that? And that person ultimately has to connect everybody in the building too. So you have to have that balance there of, being demanding, connecting people in the building, and just bringing people together. So those are the big things that really we're looking for. And obviously they have to have a strategic vision in terms of philosophy and X's and O's as well.
That was Mike Borgonzi, just spoke to the media a few minutes ago over at St. Thomas Sports Park. Thought that was an interesting answer about what he's looking for in a head coach and whether the guy has to be a quote-unquote alpha personality. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. I like that answer from Mike Borgonzi because I think the easy thing to do is swing the pendulum back and forth. Vrabel was the alpha guy. He was kind of a jerk, but he was the leader of men and not the X's and O's type. So you swung the pendulum all the way back and went to the super nice, quote unquote, offensive guru, and that didn't work out. I like that he's not saying we're going to completely overcorrect in the other direction and just go get whoever the most alpha, in your face, Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel type guy is. That there are different ways to lead. And I think that is an important point to make, is that this doesn't have to be your, again, not to go at Dan Campbell, but your bite off kneecaps kind of guy. But it does have to be somebody who, as Mike Borgonzi said, is going to hold people accountable and isn't afraid of conflict. He's going to be the guy who demands a lot from this locker room, even if that isn't the in-your-face alpha personality.
Yeah, be assertive. Obviously, if you're a head coach, be assertive towards your team. I'm a little, I'd say, worried after hearing that.
Really?
I am just a little bit. Sure, he's appeasing, everybody in the crowd, whatever, but a little worried because I'm not saying he doesn't know what he wants to do. I think he's just putting out a front because I think he does know what he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's my only worry, is if hopefully don't take it for face value. If the person that is out there listening probably takes it for face value, I'd be a little worried.
I think it is there's going to be a lot of coach speak, smoke when it comes to what he's talking about, because you don't want to give away your strategy.
Sure.
Right? There are 5 other teams with head coach openings, and you don't want to say, this is our guy. And so that was never going to happen. But I thought that was interesting. Paul Kuharsky asking, are you looking for an alpha personality to come in, command this room? And he said, not necessarily. Could it be an alpha guy? Sure. But he's got to have the other things with it as well. We're reacting to what Mike Borgonzi had to say at his postseason press conference. Titans getting ready to make a head coaching hire. They've already started the process. A couple more clips here. Let's start with this one. He is talking about interviewing the candidates, and there's a specific model that he's going to use. Here's what Mike Borgonzi had to say.
Is it your goal to replicate or recreate the model you saw in Kansas City? And how important is it to you that candidate you go after reflects what you saw in Kansas City versus being open to somebody who has succeeded but maybe not the way you've experienced before?
I'm looking to create the model for the Tennessee Titans with the people that we have here. I've learned a ton of things, Nick, from where I was in the past. I've taken certain things on how we evaluate players and how we work with coaches during that process and how we do certain things. But this is our team here and the people that we have. So I've certainly learned and benefited from a lot of the stuff that in the past. But I think we have a group here that's been in different places, and we want to make it our own.
I like that answer from Mike Borgonzi as well. I think a lot of people with the Nagy stuff are saying, well, he just wants to be, the new Kansas City Chiefs, just bring it out east a little bit. And we saw that with Vrabel when he was here. I mean, the Titans did become the Patriots of the South for a while there. You brought in a whole lot of their players, Deion Lewis, Malcolm Butler, blanking on some of the others. They went out, Logan Ryan, Stephen Gostkowski. Yes, they tried to bring in a whole lot of Patriots because Mike Vrabel liked the way that those guys were coached under Bill Belichick.
The Patriot way.
Right. The Patriot way, that still lives with Mike Vrabel, even when he was here. And obviously now he's back there. Borgonzi, I still think that Nagy is going to get a very good look at this, but hearing that shows me that Mike Borgonzi is not, boxing himself in this interview process. I'm sure he really likes Matt Nagy, and maybe there's a little part of him that is hoping that Matt Nagy proves himself to be the guy. But I don't think that he is going in with any preconceived notions of, hey, we're going to give Nagy the benefit of the doubt because he's my guy. He wants to build a certain culture and a certain dynamic here in Nashville that I'm sure he's taking some from his time in Kansas City, but he's not trying to recreate exactly what the Chiefs did when they built up the dynasty that they've been on for the past 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, and when he said there he wants to make the I guess form of the Tennessee Titans, he's making that his way. Like, again, when you bring, like you just said, when you bring something from Kansas City and you try to replicate it, that's not your own thing. You make it your own thing. I mean, you're the general manager of this team, and again, I think that question kind of sets the precedent of, yeah, nobody's in my direction. This is my thing. I'm trying to really hone in on. Brinker's doing his thing. I got my thing. This is what I'm here for.
It's impossible for him to come here and not take a good amount from what he learned in Kansas City. He spent like 15 years there. So there is going to be some parallels of what Kansas City did to be successful that I'm sure he's trying to bring. But that doesn't mean go hire their coaches and just say, like, good enough. That's the Chiefs way. So Matt Nagy is going to be the name that the Titans are tied to because of his relationship with Mike Borgonzi. He is getting an interview. I believe they said it is Thursday. He is going to get his virtual interview. And he was asked at the end of the press conference about what would the fans' perception, the public perception be to hiring Matt Nagy, who by all accounts from Chicago did not end well there. Here is what Mike Borgonzi had to say.
The perception of Matt Nagy is that he was not a good coach in Chicago. And there's a little public perception that he's at fault for Kansas City's regression as an offense this past year. But that's the public perception. You know Matt Nagy. So when looking at that, how much do you factor in what you know about a particular candidate's ability to coach compared to the public perception or what the fans' perception might be?
Yeah, listen, I have a great relationship with Matt. I've worked with him for years. I thought he did some good things in Chicago, and he did a lot of good things when he returned to Kansas City. Like all these other coaches, though, Jared, you have to do a ton of research on them. And this thing's, you still have to research on people that you know.
So there's the answer. Again, kind of a coach speak answer. Didn't give too much away, but I don't want Mike Borgonzi making a hire because he's worried about the public blowback. Like we saw that note about Amy Adams Strunk after firing Brian Callahan of Amy wants a hire that isn't going to get her reprimanded by the media and the fans. That is not how you should go about hiring a head coach. Do I love Matt Nagy? No. Would I be thrilled if Matt Nagy's the head coach? No. But if Mike Borgonzi goes through this full process and truly believes and is convicted that Matt Nagy is the guy that can come in and turn this thing around, then who am I to say he's wrong? This is a guy who knows football. He knows Matt Nagy personally. He's seen him work. If he truly believes that Matt Nagy is the guy, then I can get on board with that because Mike Borgonzi knows that his job's on the line too here. He's not just going to hire his buddy just to hire his buddy. He knows that if Matt Nagy does not develop Cam Ward and this team doesn't turn around fast, all three of them are going to be out the door. So Mike Borgonzi isn't going to hire Matt Nagy just because he's his buddy. I think that the familiarity he has with Matt Nagy shows you that if he hires Nagy, then he probably truly is the best guy for the job. I wouldn't be thrilled with it. I hope they go somewhere else, but I can totally understand the thought process of doing it.
Yeah, and to the point of the public perception of Matt Nagy, sure, there was regression with the Kansas City Chiefs this past season, but you also have to remember, too, they're holding on to a window that they've had for the last 3 to 4, 5, 6 seasons with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and you have your gadget guys that they had McCole Hardman, they had Kareem Hunt, who they brought back, again, aging running back. You have a guy in Pacheco who you got in, the 7th round from Rutgers.
Right.
Those are all pieces, but again, all that has to work at the same time. It's an engine. Everything has to work at the exact same time for it to work out. I think for Nagy, that engine in the Kansas City Chiefs is slowly starting to have malfunctions. And so I don't think you can really weigh that on a Matt Nagy issue, rather more on the roster structure issue in Kansas City.
I agree with that. And it has been funny seeing all the Chiefs fans saying, take him. We don't want him. Get him out of here. I'm like, he doesn't call the plays.
Yeah.
Like what exactly is Matt Nagy doing that is so horrible that you need to get him out of there? I know the offense took a big step back this year, but you're right. I think it has more to do with personnel than it does with just Matt Nagy ruining the whole thing.
Because if you're a Chiefs fan, you're not going to blame Andy Reid for the lack of success this
Right.
year. Come on now.
No one's going to be, he's got you 3 Super Bowl rings. He's not going, torches and pitchforks are not showing up at Andy Reid's house. They're going to go to Matt Nagy for some reason, but he's not the one calling the plays. And he has said that he's not going to call the plays if he's the head coach.
Interesting.
So that is something interesting too. If the Titans were to hire Matt Nagy, he would not be the play caller. He would hire someone to be the OC who would do that.
Again, that goes back to my statement I made in the first hour. There is a potential door open for a guy like Bo Hardegree. Continuity.
Well, speaking of coaches possibly coming back,
No.
we have some news from Paul Kaharski. This came out about 20 minutes ago.
Not Nick Holtz.
No.
Okay.
Titans are interviewing Mike McCoy for the full-time head coaching job.
Oh, don't take that. It's with a grain of salt, folks. Just take it with a grain of salt. That's just a courtesy interview.
Good, because I'm about to freak out.
We'll talk about
All
it
right.
coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got one more hour on the show. We'll react to that news and more from the Mike Borgonzi press conference coming up next. Then we'll get into the NFL playoffs a little bit and the college football transfer portal. All of that in our final hour. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour next. Man Up 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots to get to here. We may not. Yesterday we were supposed to get into the NFL playoffs. Today too. I don't think we're gonna have time for it because there's so much going on. We've still got a few days until they start. We've got time. But we mentioned heading into the break, Paul Kaharski reporting that Mike McCoy will be getting an interview for the full-time job this afternoon. He does say in his article, and again, you can find this on paulkaharski.com, that the interview likely marks a thank you for his work as Brian Callahan's replacement as much as anything. He also puts in there that defensive coordinator Denard Wilson wanted an interview but is not getting one. And others expected to be interviewed for the Titans job include Clint Kubiak, Jeff Hafley, Chris Shula, Robert Saleh, and Anthony Campanelli, the Jaguars defensive coordinator. So that is all from Paul Kaharski on paulkaharski.com. The big news in that report, Mike McCoy getting an interview for the full-time head coaching job. I think it's more of a courtesy than anything, but, I'm not a huge fan of it either way.
I mean, he was choked up in the post-game press conference on Sunday about how, he thanks his time here being yada, yada. Like, look, I mean, he did a pretty decent job for the most part being interim head coach here, got a few wins for the team. And I feel like the culture wasn't really set for him, but the fact that he's helping as a stepping stone for that culture, good for him. But again, I'm not going to look heavy into that. I am intrigued by the comment there from, you said there about Denard Wilson, not, I guess, getting denied an interview. Is that right?
Yeah, which makes it hard to believe he's going to stick around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's all going to be up to the next head coach. Speaking of which, another breaking news story over the last 10 minutes or so, the Commanders and offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury have agreed to part ways mutually. Kingsbury has some head coaching interest, and Tom Pelissero reporting that he will have multiple offensive coordinator options. I don't know if Kingsbury would be a great head coach. There are red flags there from his time in Arizona. I'm not sold on him at all. But that's another option out there on the offensive coordinator market if he doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere.
Look, I said in the break, I would probably change my fandom if he went to the Raiders. I wouldn't change my fandom, but they would be definitely a team I'd love to watch.
Are you and Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray? It's like, was that 2020 Cardinals team like your favorite team of all time?
Special team.
The Hail Murray.
It's the fact that Cliff Kingsbury, I think, has the most quarterbacks in the NFL that he's coached. Am I correct on that? It was Baker Mayfield,
Kyler,
Mahomes. Right?
Maybe a little bit of Mahomes. Yeah. He did coach Mahomes. Yeah. That's when he was the head coach. Yeah. So, yeah.
There are a few other quarterbacks out there, but I'm not saying he's a quarterback guru. But if you have a young quarterback, look what he did with Jaden Daniels in year one. That got them to the playoffs in a roundabout way. I could see that being a little bit of lightning in a bottle for the Raiders.
Yeah, and you can look at the regression this year as a lot of injuries. Jaden Daniels barely played half the season. Austin Eckler got hurt early on in the year. Terry McLaurin missed a lot of time. So, I can understand why Cliff Kingsbury would get some head coaching looks. I'm not sold on him as a head coach, but I think that would be a really good hire. If you bring in a defensive coach as your head coach, bring Cliff Kingsbury in as your OC. I wouldn't hate that.
And you mentioned it last break about how Matt Nagy wouldn't be calling plays. Intriguing if the Titans were to hire him as an OC, because it's a lateral move. But at the same time, no state income tax.
Well, and it's a lateral move, but it's like, where else is he going to go at this point? He's no longer employed by a team. So if he doesn't get one of the 6 head coaching jobs, he's likely going to be an offensive coordinator somewhere. I think that would be good for the Titans.
No way he goes to Cleveland, right?
I doubt it.
I mean, there's no way, no possible way. You have quarterback by committee there. I mean, and if he doesn't like Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel or Deshaun Watson for this case, there's no way, right?
I would doubt it. I think the Raiders said they were going to interview him. But I don't know for sure. But Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders mutually agreed to part ways. So he is out there on the open market. Titans were rumored to interview him. I don't think anything official has been put down. I guess they don't have to request anymore. They can just do it because he's not employed. So We'll see if anything comes of that. I also saw this, and this is from a couple of hours ago when the Titans announced that, or when it was reported that the Titans will be interviewing Kevin Stefanski on Saturday. This may be common knowledge, but it's interesting to see it. Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Browns, said the Browns would have drafted Cam Ward at number 2 if he fell to them.
Wow.
I'm sure that was put out there during the draft, but it is an interesting thing to note that the Browns liked Cam Ward enough, they would have taken him 2nd overall, and Kevin Stefanski was in on that decision. So maybe that's a plus on the side of the Titans' job if Kevin Stefanski wanted it. We did talk earlier about Mike Vrabel might have aired all his dirty laundry to Kevin Stefanski during that year he spent in Cleveland too, though.
Yeah, that's a big possibility. And again, it goes back to the statement Amy made last week, and that might kind of signify why Stefanski may not want to come to Nashville. I mean, got to remember that. Put 2 and 2 together there. Whatever Mike told him, if that is the case, along with what Amy has put out in her message as well.
Right. He's interviewing on Saturday in person. So I think you would hope he's at least coming in with an open mind. I think Stefanski is the top candidate on the market right now.
Yeah.
Not a perfect candidate by any means, but there's just not a whole lot of like the up and coming coordinators. None of them are as hot as some of the previous ones that we've seen. And the retreads all have their warts to them. Like, I like Robert Saleh. I like Matt Nagy enough. I like Mike McCarthy, but I don't think any of them are a, slam dunk home run hire. I don't know if there is one of those on the market this year, but I think maybe the closest you can get is Kevin Stefanski because of the pedigree of what he's done in Cleveland. And he's an offensive guy from that McVay, Shanahan tree. Everybody seems to be from that tree at this point, but I think that would be the best hire for the Titans. I think it's going to depend on whether Kevin Stefanski wants to come to Nashville or not.
Yeah, it's very true. And also that Denard Wilson, excerpt there that he was not getting granted an interview there. It makes me wonder now that opens up the door for the defensive, candidates in Raheem Morris. Like, obviously that is somebody on the radar as well. Vance Joseph, another defensive guy. Do I think that they'll go defense when it comes to a head coaching job like this? Not likely.
I think they could.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to go inexperienced, like first-time head coach, I think it's going to be a defensive guy.
Interesting.
Because the defensive guys are typically more of the command the room leaders, right? Very rare that you see a defensive head coach signed just because of his X's or hired because of his X's and O's expertise, right?
Right.
Like these guys that get hired as defensive coordinators, it's because they're leaders of men. There's some that you like the way they scheme up the defense, and that can be a part of it, but it's less about the X's and O's than it is about the just the overall gravitas that they have over a locker room. The offensive coordinators who get hired, it's usually because of their scheme, the way they think about things offensively. So I think if it's a first-time head coach, they've said over and over they want a leader. I think it's going to be a defensive guy. If you're going retread, somebody who has the head coaching experience, I think you'd go with a guy like a Nagy or a Stefanski or a McCarthy because they can be the guy for Cam. They have the experience being a leader in the locker room, and you don't have to worry about them getting hired away like you would if you have an offensive coordinator who's the guy for Cam Ward.
Yeah, and to that point, it makes you wonder if, and I'm going to use Nagy as an example here, say if he is the head coach and you hire an offensive coordinator, you want to make sure that OC is a guy that can stick with Cam going forward. Like I already mentioned about Hardegree and all the above, but if you can get a guy that can stick with Cam that way, and because you're not going to be calling plays if that is the case.
Yep.
Defensively, you need to grab somebody that can set a culture, because look, if you're a head coach that's not going to be calling plays and is going to be kind of letting the coordinators do their job, it makes you wonder how much of a culture setting head coach they will be. That's what my big concern is.
Yeah, it's a good point. Trevor on the text line says, Stefanski at head coach, Kingsbury at OC, Raheem Morris at DC. Talk about experience.
Talk about guys that don't want a head coaching job.
I mean, well, I can't see Raheem Morris getting a head coaching job this year.
Really? Take a year off, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for guys to get head coaching jobs the same offseason they're fired.
Mhm.
I think the only reason we're talking about Stefanski is because he is a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, right? Like those guys don't get fired very often.
And not far removed from them either.
2 years.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing as Vrabel. Vrabel was 2 years removed from being NFL Coach of the Year when he got fired.
Could be Coach of the Year this year too.
He very well could be. That's going to be the awards this year are actually interesting. Outside of Defensive Player of the Year, I don't know if any of them are,
MVP's
locked
a
up.
tight race.
MVP's tough with May. I think it's May or Stafford.
Yeah.
Coach of the Year could be a lot of different people.
Liam Cohen,
Vrabel, Cohen, Ben Johnson,
Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald.
I'll make my case for Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan,
Yeah.
deserves to be in there. Sean Payton, I think you could put in there as well. That it could be a quarter of the league that could be Coach of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're getting on a tangent here.
Sorry.
It should be Tet McMillan or Emeka Ibuka. If Tyler Shuck wins that award, then what are we doing?
Quarterback run league, man. That's what it is.
He played like 8 games.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I agree. It's just, this is
No,
what
I
the
get it.
NFL is. It's quarterback run league.
I get it. But yeah, we'll see. Those are all going to be interesting. But Stefanski, the reason he's getting looks is because he does have the pedigree of the success that he's had. Raheem Morris has not quite had that level of success as a head coach. Wouldn't be shocked if maybe he gets another look at some point. He was an interim head coach previously, right? With the the Buccaneers.
Bucks.
With the Buccaneers. He was an interim head coach. Then was the DC with the Rams, and now the head coach with the Falcons. I think he'll get another chance at some point. It is tough for these guys. You get fired January 5th, and you've got to turn around and go do the interview process.
Interim in Atlanta, then went to the Rams, and then that's what it shows.
When was he with the Bucks?
The Bucks?
He was with the Bucks at some point, right?
2007 through 2011.
Was he the interim head coach there at some point?
It just has, head coach.
Oh, he was the head coach. Okay.
09 to 11.
Okay, gotcha.
So way back.
So
in the day.
that would be his third chance if he gets another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Head coaches don't often get third chances.
Wow, he's had a lot of stints with the Atlanta Falcons. Holy cow.
Maybe that's why they thought it was such a good idea.
Maybe. I mean, he seemed to have worked every single player position with Atlanta. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough for head coaches to get third chances. I'm trying to think of anybody who has.
I mean,
like head coaches that have gotten a third stint. We're talking about Mike McCarthy, maybe, but I can't think of a ton that it's like, hey, you failed once, you failed twice. We're going to give you a third shot.
Jack Del Rio? Wasn't he with
He was with the Jaguars, the Raiders. Where else was he?
In Denver as well?
You might be right.
Or he might have been as a DC. Let's see. Jack Del Rio.
We can look at this in the break and see. But
He's with the Raiders.
It's just, Raiders and Jags. It's tough to get a third chance as an NFL head coach, but nobody is coming to mind as of right now. Like Doug Peterson got 2. Frank Reich got 2. Like there's been a lot of guys getting second chances. It's tough to get a third. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue talking the Titans head coaching search and more that came out of Mike Borgonzi's press conference on the other side. Then at the bottom of the hour, we will talk college football a little bit because there's been a whole lot of chaos going on in the transfer portal, some of it centering around the University of Tennessee. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Mike Borgonzi spoke at the podium earlier today. Some good stuff from Mike Borgonzi. He is keeping a lot of stuff close to the vest, which is understandable, right? Like he's not going to go out and lay out his entire strategy for this head coaching search, but he did say some good things about the candidates he's familiar with, the ones he's not. And we were just talking during the break about the answer he had about Matt Nagy. And the public sentiment around Matt Nagy is not good. Bears fans hate him. We've had people from Chicago text in and say, trust me, you don't want Nagy. All of the comments under, like Jordan Schultz tweeted yesterday, Titans expected to interview Matt Nagy. And all of the comments were, as a Chiefs fan, please take him from us. And so I thought it was a good question of everybody who is watched Matt Nagy coach thinks he sucks. Why won't he suck here? And, Mike Borgonzi didn't give a full answer, but it's an important question. And I said it earlier, Mike Borgonzi knows him. He's going through the process. If he hires Matt Nagy, it's because he thinks he is the best possible candidate for the Titans.
Yeah, didn't he win Coach of the Year with the Bears too at one point? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's what I don't understand.
He went 12-4 his first year. He had an above 500 record. The 12-4 does skew that a little bit, but he went to the playoffs twice with the Bears. The double doink was his first year. The second year, I want to say he had Nick Foles at quarterback, and it just didn't work out.
A little regression there.
Yeah. So I'm not saying Matt Nagy is my favorite candidate, but I can understand the process of it.
Well, maybe too. And looking from the past there, and with the Chicago Bears and Kansas City Chiefs, the regression I've already talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs. What about with the regression in the Chicago Bears? What if he's not a part of the drafting, like the focal point of the drafting process? What if it's solely Mike Borgonzi and gets a little bit of input from Matt Nagy? Maybe that's the case, because in Chicago, that organization is run at a higher level. I'm not saying the Titans are not, but I'm just saying in general, the Bears are held to a little bit of a different standard because the fan base is very rabid when it comes to stuff like this. Maybe that's the case. Maybe there was a little bit of some roster construction he was a little bit more involved with, and that's possibly why they had a little more.
Yeah, I don't know how involved he was with the drafting.
Right.
He wasn't there when Trubisky got picked, I don't think. I think he came in the year after and kind of was saddled with him and got them to 12-4 with Mitch Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely part of the decision to draft Justin Fields, but he only got 1 year with him. So I don't know. I really hope they don't hire Matt Nagy. Like that is not at the top of my wish list for the Titans. But if that is the hire, it's not just because he's Mike Borgonzi's buddy. Like Mike Borgonzi, I trust that he knows if he gets this hire wrong, it's his job on the line.
Right.
So he's not just going to be like, I like Matt. Matt and I are friends. Here's an NFL head coaching job, Matt. Don't mess it up. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Kenny from Spring Hill, we were asking about of coaches who have gotten 3 chances. We got a couple. Stephen from Hendersonville mentions Mike Mularkey, who, yes, he was with Buffalo, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Was he in interim with Buffalo? I know he was the full-time with Jacksonville and Tennessee, but I don't know if he was a full-time head coach 3 times.
I'll double check that.
Al says Bill Parcells. That's one. Kenny from Spring Hill says, I know it's not football, but what about Billy Martin getting several manager jobs? Every other sport except for football, they love the retreads. They love them. Hockey, basketball, baseball. The best guy that you can hire has already done it, right? Like there are so many retread coaches that get hired in those other sports. The NFL is one of those where it's like, yeah, you get 2 chances. If you mess up 2, you're probably not getting a 3rd.
Yeah, kind of like with a GM standpoint as well. Like normally GMs don't get a second chance. Some do, not a lot.
Yeah, GMs almost never get a second chance.
It's very minimal, but again, it comes on the table.
Which again, it's a tangent here, but I wonder why GMs don't get a second chance.
Well, and I don't want to play revisionist history here, but look, with the Titans, Isaiah Wilson, yikes. I think picks like that can really put a detriment to your resume when it comes to manager.
I guess. And it's always wanting to find the new vision. It's like, all right, we've seen this guy. We can point to why he got fired. Like coaches, it's a little bit harder to point to exactly why they get hired because it's a little more abstract of like, what were they doing? Each play call, all this kind of stuff. What were they doing in the locker room? There's not really like black and white. This is why they got fired. With GMs, it's like, all right, John Robinson, Isaiah Wilson, Traylon Burks, Caleb Farley, AJ Brown trade. See ya. Like, it's black and white. You can look at the record of what he picked and what he did and say, all right, yeah, that's why he got fired. So maybe that's what it is. It's like, it's harder to sell a second-time GM to a fan base because it's like the fans can just go and say, here are his last 3 drafts. Why would we want this guy running our team?
Yeah. And also, too, when you're in that position and you're no longer a general manager, you want to, I'm not saying this is a possible thing or not, be a consultant for maybe a potential GM that's already in the league or a consultant for a team, because then that's kind of how you get your foot back in the door. I don't know if that is the case in the NFL, but, there's obviously some consulting jobs. I mean, look at Troy Aikman. I mean, he doesn't want to be a GM, but yet he's a consultant for the Miami Dolphins.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that's the case for some former GMs if they do that, but it's just something to look into. And I kind of want to revisit the Matt Nagy conversation real fast. You look at the situation in Chicago, and you mentioned the cycle of quarterbacks. The Titans are not in that cycle right now.
No.
They're not in a cycle to keep getting a new quarterback. Nagy's coming into a fresh start with this team to the point where it could be a success. It really could be. You only focus more on what is needed to be into the draft, and that's an edge rusher potentially, or a wide receiver. And that seems to be the case. And if that's the case with Nagy and Borgonzi, let Borgonzi get the pick in there, get a little bit of input from Nagy, and go about your day.
Long way to go in this process. Mike Borgonzi said no timetable, but interviews start tomorrow. Lou Anarumo is the first one tomorrow. Mike McCoy is interviewing today. Lou Anarumo tomorrow. Then Matt Nagy on Thursday. Over the weekend, Kevin Stefanski and Raheem Morris. And I'm sure that Vance Joseph will be in there too, and Steve Spagnuolo, as those interview requests have been talked about. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago. If you could pick 3 guys to interview, who would they be? I want to revisit that quickly. Like you said, Saleh,
Brian Flores,
and I'm blanking on the last one.
Was it Cliff Kingsbury? No,
maybe Nagy.
Might have been
or Arthur Smith. It was Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith. I have the list on my
computer. Do you have any change of heart now that you're into the cycle here?
Maybe one of those.
Okay,
out of the 3.
Do you know who would replace him?
Arthur Smith, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I replace Arthur Smith. I know who that name is, though. You want to say?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, if I had to change the Arthur Smith one, it'd probably be Matt Nagy.
Okay, You're going with Nagy. I would change mine. So I said McCarthy, Saleh, Hafley. I would swap Saleh out with Kevin Stefanski. Knowing that he's available now, I think those would be my 3 of, if it's one of those 3, I think I'm pretty pleased with the hiring. Again, Mike Borgonzi is going through the process. He knows way more than me. But the 3 I would look at right now that I would be pretty pleased with, McCarthy, Hafley, Stefanski. I like those 3 a lot.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Again, long way to go. Interviews just getting underway, and there will be plenty more as teams get eliminated from the playoffs. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We have talked all Titans all show yesterday, all Titans all show today. Going to take a little bit of a break and talk some college football. The transfer portal is spinning. Ty Simpson might be the big domino to fall that could not only affect the Titans in the draft, but maybe also affect the Vols out east. We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Couple more segments here on this Tuesday. We've talked Titans all show long. Mike Borgonzi spoke to the media earlier this morning. Plenty of reaction coming to that throughout the day here on 102.5 The Game. Again, Chase and Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour. But I did want to have this conversation about the transfer portal because the quarterbacks are flying off the board left and right. We've already seen some huge names. Brennan Sorsby, maybe the top guy in the portal. He's going to Texas Tech following his girlfriend. That was a safe bet pretty much right off the bat. When you saw his girlfriend transfer to Texas Tech, kind of felt like that was where it was going to go.
And $5 million isn't bad too.
Right. You don't have to do long distance and you get $5 million. Win-win.
Carson Beck 2.0.
Yes, there you go.
He might get an oil field too.
Really? Are they giving him 1%
I
of
don't know
all
if that was
oil
actually real.
of all oil drilled?
I'll take that. 1%. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, Carson Beck, that's true. He followed one of the Cavender twins over there. Didn't quite work out. Drew Mestamaker following his head coach to Oklahoma State. Byron Brown following his head coach to Auburn. Josh Hoover likely going to be taking over for Fernando Mendoza in Indiana, and shows you not that it was in much doubt, but Fernando Mendoza is going to go into the draft. A couple other names: Rocco Beck following his head coach to Penn State. Ethan Grunkemeyer following his head coach to Virginia Tech. Funny how this all works. Cutter Boley going from Kentucky to Arizona State. It looked like there might be a 1-for-1 trade there. Sam Levitt going to Kentucky. But last night, Kentucky flipped Hendersonville native Kenny Minchie. He was supposed to go to Nebraska, ends up going to Kentucky.
Don't let Will Compton hear this.
Yeah, Will Compton was not happy on Twitter last night.
Oh, boy.
So the quarterback carousel is spinning all over the place. There are still some big names out there. Anthony Calandria, I know you're a fan of his under Dan Mullen.
Look, Dan Mullen rectified his season and rectified his career in a roundabout way. I think whatever quarterback goes to UNLV next, or if he just has somebody in the pipeline,
I did
trust.
it first. I got him to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony
Wow.
in NCAA. So I did
Okay.
it first. Don't let Dan Mullen take my credit.
Bo Prabula is still out there from Missouri. It looks like he's expected to commit soon. Deuce Knight, the true freshman from Auburn, former 5-star in the portal. DJ Lagway still in the portal. I guess Florida State making a run for him. Dylan Raiola, and then Sam Levitt. Parker, am I wrong? Levitt, LSU, is that the smoke?
He hasn't committed yet, but yes, that's being rumored.
Yes. So I think you're going to see Levitt go to Lane Kiffin at LSU. But the one name that's not in the portal that's getting a whole lot of attention right now is Ty Simpson. Simpson had an up and down year with Alabama. Midway through the year, after beating Georgia and Vanderbilt and Missouri in 3 straight weeks, there was talk about him being the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And then things came back to earth. I think he was injured a little bit. And now the question becomes, where does he go? And this not only could have effects on the Titans, because if Ty Simpson enters the draft and, Arizona maybe falls in love with him, they take him at 3. The Titans now get their pick of whatever blue chip prospect non-quarterback they want, because it'll be 3 quarterbacks going in front of them. That'd be great for Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans. But for the Tennessee Volunteers, there's a chance that if Ty Simpson doesn't go into the draft, that he does go into the portal, and Tennessee would be a logical landing spot for him.
It would, but what kind of message does that send to the rest of the Volunteer roster, especially at the quarterback room? You have Faison Brandon, the
five-star true freshman.
Then you got McIntyre from Brentwood Academy. Again, those are 2 up-and-coming quarterbacks that you're thinking, well, I get we need to add a lot of financial compensation for the offensive line, but you go grab a quarterback and Ty Simpson. Again, I'd call him a blue chip college football player for the most part, but at the same time, you got to remember Ty Simpson, he's coming off the rib injuries from the Rose Bowl. Sure, he'll be healthy by the fall. I get all that, but at the same time, I don't think it sends the right message for Vols faithful.
Yeah, that's the question Josh Heupel has to ask is, does he think one of these 2 young guys is going to be ready? They're both highly touted prospects. McIntyre, 5-star, Brandon, a 5-star. But neither of them has played a snap of college football yet, right? Like McIntyre didn't play at all this year, if I'm not mistaken. So you're betting on a lot of inexperience with those two. And you could, if you're Heupel, say, you know what? My seat could get really hot if things don't go well this year. Maybe I want to go get someone experienced. And Simpson, I mean, we listed off all those names in the portal. Do any of those guys have as much quality experience as Ty Simpson has? I mean, like, Levitt did play in the college football playoff last year, but I think I'd go Simpson over Levitt. Brennan Sorsby is the interesting one for me. Like, all that money, was he that good at Cincinnati this year? I didn't watch enough Bearcats football to know one way or the other, but people were talking about him like he
hung the moon.
Like he's the surefire number one pick who somehow went into the portal. It's like, is he that good? I'm sure he's an upgrade from whatever that was Texas Tech had at quarterback on Thursday against Oregon. But Ty Simpson, I think, would be possibly the best transfer you could get in the country. If he goes into the portal and he wants to go to Tennessee, I think Heupel would have a hard time saying, no, it's okay. We'll go with these two guys.
Yeah, and also, Ty Simpson knows the landscape of the SEC. You got to remember that.
Yeah.
All these other quarterbacks that you've kind of mentioned, sure, you have your DJ Lagways of the world and whatnot, but your Bo Prabula, who's come from Missouri, he fits more of that Joey Aguilar mold, in my opinion, that dual threat kind of quarterback. As for Ty Simpson, he's that pocket passing style quarterback that, again, could increase the, I guess, Josh Heupel pace of play that he wants. Get the ball out quick, throw it to your wide receivers. If that is the case, then yeah, maybe he is a good fit for Tennessee. But again, I don't think the message lines up with the tactics of it all.
Well, right. I think if you bring in Ty Simpson, George McIntyre probably transfers. Like, he's going to be caught in that sandwich of Faison Brandon eventually, I think, is going to be the guy. Faison Brandon. Caleb on the text line says Brandon's family wants him to redshirt. So that kind of would track of, all right, you go get a transfer for this year. If it's Ty Simpson, he's going to go to the NFL after next year, and then Brandon can take over after his redshirt year, just like Nico did. It could honestly work out pretty much the same way of if Ty Simpson is solid, looks good. I guess in this case, you're hoping Tennessee would be in the playoff at that point. I was going to say Simpson could opt out of the bowl game and you get your first look at Brandon, but
yeah,
Tennessee fans, I'm sure, are hoping that they're in the playoff at that point. It's an interesting situation for Josh Heupel because the leash is not short, but it's also not long for him. And if things don't go well this year, it could get bad quickly. I don't know if he wants to put all of his hopes on someone who has never stepped foot on an SEC field.
That's true. And again, to the Heupel standpoint of all this, if this Tennessee Vols football team goes to, let's say, the first round of the playoff, or they just are on the outside looking in, regardless of how they finish, I think he's gone. I really do.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We got one more segment. We'll wrap things up on the other side. Again, last call for phone, 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game.
but I also don't think you want to go into next year playing a kid who's never played. And granted, McIntyre's been on campus for a year. I still think physically he needs to get bigger and stronger. So I think without question, Tennessee's combing the portal for a quarterback. And the one that's most intriguing, and Bama fans and Tennessee fans are going to sit up straight when I say this, is Ty Simpson. I do not believe Ty Simpson will be back at Alabama next year. I think he's gone. I think it's either he's going to pros and going, entering the draft, or I think he's going to go into the portal. Now Ty's been around for a while. He's a pretty savvy kid. His dad, Jason's as a coach. So they're not going to do anything without talking to the right people and talking to people who know. I think most importantly, Bob, a Tennessee kid who I think was interested in coming to Tennessee. There was that transition between Pruitt and Heupel, sort of a weird time. I think there were other times during his career at Alabama where he might have thought about transferring, and Tennessee was in his thoughts. It just didn't happen. But I think this time, if he doesn't decide to transfer, and I think the thing his decision in my mind will hinge on simply this: if he gets the kind of feedback from pro people that he is a first-round draft pick, I think he's gone. I think he'll go to the NFL. And you know what? He probably should. He got hit a lot. He took a lot of hits, got hit a lot, and this was his fourth year on campus. If he gets from NFL GM scouts, yeah, you're the third quarterback in the draft. We think you're going to go somewhere between 15 and 25. I think he's gone. If it's not, if that feedback, Bob, is not that emphatic about, well, maybe you slide into the second round, then I think he's going to look seriously at transferring. And I think if he does, I think he lands in Tennessee.
That was Chris Lowe talking about Ty Simpson. We were just having the conversation about where does Simpson go? And interesting stuff there, saying, I don't think he's back at Alabama next year. He's either going to the draft or going to the portal. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the show on this Tuesday. Chase and Big Joe are coming up after us. Again, Corey Curtis with us from News 2 tomorrow. Excited for that. We'll talk plenty of Titans and much more. But with Ty Simpson, I lean that he goes into the draft. The NFL is starving for talented young quarterbacks that they think can project to being franchise guys. And in this year's draft, there's no surefire guys like last year. Like Cam Ward was not Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck, that you're like, yep, sign it up. He's the number one pick from the second the number one pick was decided, right? When the Titans got the number one pick, no one was like, great, Cam Ward's ours. It took a couple of months. I think the expectation is that Fernando Mendoza is the number one pick, but would it shock anybody if Moore ended up passing him? I think it's close enough that I think throughout the process, things could flip. And with Ty Simpson, I think he's going to go to the draft basically because of that, he is talented enough that if he goes through the process and at the beginning, even if it is like Chris Lowe just said, that he's expected to go, 15 to 20, quarterbacks always rise up the boards. And it wouldn't shock me if he enters the draft thinking he's a mid first round pick and somehow ends up going third overall to the Cardinals.
It's possible, but every draft has one, and it's a quarterback that always drops. And to me, I think it'd be Ty Simpson.
Really?
I do. Maybe just because he's taken a lot of beating this year with Alabama and physically and also on the scoreboard. Maybe that's something to do with it. But Dante Moore, if he does go to the draft, that's a top prospect for me that would be a hands down. You got to grab that guy. Same thing with Mendoza. Ty Simpson, I'm still a little hesitant on to be sold if he is a true NFL prospect or not.
Yeah, Dante Moore, I think you're betting on the ceiling.
Right.
Mendoza, the floor. Like I like to use ceiling and floor a lot for a lot of things in the NFL of what are you betting on? And teams like to bet on the ceiling more than they like to bet on the floor. Because Fernando Mendoza, I think you feel pretty safe thinking he's going to turn into a starting level NFL quarterback. But the comparisons he's getting are like Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins type guy, right? Like not a game-changing player, but a guy who can be your franchise quarterback for 10 years. Dante Moore, I think you worry a little bit about the inexperience. He's only played one season, but the ceiling is definitely higher. It's going to be a matter of what do the Raiders value more. So I agree. I think those are going to be the top two, but I think teams are desperate for quarterbacks. The Cardinals are going to move on from Kyler Murray this year. And unless they want to find a way to bridge it, we talked about Will Levis maybe going to Arizona. Maybe that's the way they do it, is they go get a Will Levis or Mac Jones from San Francisco or Malik Willis from Green Bay. And they say, we'll let this guy run it for a year. Probably not going to be very good. We'll take a quarterback next year. But it's always risky because you don't know where you're going to be picking next year, and you don't know what quarterbacks are going to be coming out and what they're going to do in their final season playing at the collegiate level.
Well, if Arizona runs it back in with Jacoby Brissett, I mean, I think they might be in the same predicament they're in right now. So, I mean, that's something to look at as well, which means if you don't know who your head coach is, run it back with what you got. Just see if you can continue with it. That's about it.
We're being called Vols homers on the text line.
Me?
Yeah.
Vols homer?
I guess talking about Alabama.
LOL.
Saying that you said that Alabama didn't have a great season, and Texter says, we had 3 losses, orange goggles. Vols couldn't even win the Music City Bowl. Parker Kelly's a Vols fan. Do not mistake it. There's no orange goggles going on in this room.
Yeah, I like Josh Heupel, but trust me, I like to see things for what it's worth. I don't think the Vols are anything special. I mean, did I say they were like the best thing on planet Earth?
No, I think it's just, if you take a shot at Bama, I guess the assumption is you're a Vols fan.
If you say something someone doesn't like, it's clickbait.
It's so funny. Well, like in terms of Vols homerism, there is absolutely none of that in that room.
Far from it.
I mean, I'm wearing the Vandy stuff today, but you're a Mississippi State fan.
Yeah. I was upset. I was actually working the Preds game that night when they lost in overtime. So I threw my hat across the room and everything. So trust me, I believe maroon and white rather than orange and white. So that's all right.
Speaking of Vanderbilt, not a lot of smoke about them in quarterbacks, which makes you think it's Jared Curtis all the way, right? Like I'm looking at the list. There's not been any kind of rumors of Vanderbilt is in contention for X quarterback. I think they're going to get somebody, but the fact that all of the top quarterbacks are coming off the board and Vandy hasn't even been mentioned with them makes me think that they're all in on Jared Curtis starting as a true freshman.
Absolutely. And it's kind of a blessing in disguise. They lost their bowl game to Iowa because I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid, but if they would have won that bowl game, they've more than likely been ranked in the top 15 for next season, going into next season. So if that's the case, that there's not a lot of high expectation. Well, there's always a high expectation for a guy like that, but not to have that extra ump of, we're 15th ranked team in the nation. Let's not put too much pressure on the kid. They'll still be ranked in the top 25, but to the point of Jared Curtis, I think he'll develop well as a freshman quarterback with Vanderbilt. You're getting a few guys back, right? Junior Sherrill coming back potentially?
Yes, Junior Sherrill, I think, said he's coming back. It's Trey Richardson's gone, which that's a tough break.
Yeah.
I get it, I guess. I mean, he's visiting Georgia this weekend, which the last guy who left Vanderbilt for Georgia didn't really work out for him. I don't know. I really like Trey Richardson. It stinks that he's gone. But yes, Junior Sherrill, I think, is coming back. All the running backs, I think, are back. Cole Spence is back at tight end and will likely take a step forward with Eli Stowers gone. Cade McConnell on the offensive line announced he's back. I think they've already added a couple of transfers in the trenches on both sides. So there are good things happening for Vanderbilt. And it is nice for Jared Curtis. I know we talk about the jump that he has to make. Corey Curtis has talked about this a lot, that he's playing at a small school, right? Like it's not a big public 6A school that he's at. He's playing at a small private school. It's going to be a big jump to the SEC. The good news is Vanderbilt's first 2 games are Austin Peay and Delaware. So a little chance to get his feet wet. And then you get NC State, which is a step up. And then you go on to SEC play. It's not going to be an easy start to his SEC career, though, at Auburn, which I don't know what Auburn's going to be, but still tough place to go play at Jordan-Hare. At Auburn, at Georgia, Ole Miss at home are the first 3 games. So
if Trinidad Chambliss is back for a year 6, that is a tough game for honestly. This is going to sound weird, but the first 3 games for Vanderbilt are sneaky good. Because last year, Austin Peay gave MTSU a run for their money.
Right now, Austin Peay, if you're going to pick an FCS team, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, and the Delaware Blue Hens, they put on a really good performance as well. I mean, making the first jump to what, FBS football?
Yes.
Special.
Yeah, in Conference USA.
So that's something else to look at. And again, not sure who they're all is coming back for their program, but they put together a good first season along with NC State. They're known to upset teams in the ACC, like a Miami or a Louisville or something like that.
Right.
So that's something to keep your eye on for
Yeah.
those 3 games.
Yeah, I think it's a good ramp up for Vanderbilt coming back with a new quarterback, a lot of new pieces. So, mentioning FCS, I can't believe we haven't talked about the FCS championship game last night over at Vanderbilt.
Holy cow.
That was a special game. I did not think Illinois State stood a chance because they had won 4 straight road games just to get there. Montana State, if you're looking for good FCS programs, they're probably in a state you've never been to. Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. Those are your best FCS teams. And Illinois State gave Montana State everything they could handle, but came up just short.
Yeah, a missed extra point actually was blocked, but looking at that game, I fell asleep in the second quarter, woke up for the second half, so just disregard that. But woke up and Illinois State's defense started to show up. Like they said, hey, we're going to get a good third down stop here. And sure enough, that's how they ended the game. Well, fourth quarter, that is, to go to overtime. A big third down stop. No, what, a minus 10 yards, something like that, sack?
I was watching the first half, and they got the touchdown to get within 7. It was 14-7, and I thought, all right, they got some momentum heading into the locker room, and then that hurdle for the touchdown from Montana State. Heck of a game. And I think Nashville fit pretty well for the FCS championship. I think it's back next year.
Wonderful.
And then they have to worry about when to renew the contract. But I did see a ton of Montana State and Illinois State fans around here and on Twitter saying, please never move the championship game away from Nashville ever again.
Once again, Nashville is the just hotbed of fun. If it's going down on Broadway to have a few drinks with your friends on a bachelor party or bachelorette party, go on a pedal tavern, whatever, but sports in Nashville, it's just something special.
Right. And doesn't Nashville kind of fit most years you're going to have one of those teams from North Dakota State, South Dakota State. This is like paradise for them. Country music and drinking on Broadway and football. Like that. There you go.
Blue collar working town coming to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes. So that was fun last night. Glad that it'll be back at Vanderbilt next year. Fun show today. Again, lots of reaction coming throughout the rest of the day here on 102.5 The Game. Mike Borgonzi spoke to the media. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. DVD will have a full reaction as well coming up at 3. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis is with us for the full show from News 2. Dr. Crane, always a pleasure having you on.
Appreciate
That'll do it for us. Chase and Big Joe coming up next. Keep it right here, 102.5 The Game.